All right, hello and welcome to the movie discussion pocket dimension, where time does not exist and the only thing that matters is film. As always, I'm Cole, joined by my good friend Jay. And as we come out of October, we hope that you had enjoyed the season and had a fun Halloween and got in lots of Halloween type stuff and horror. We tried our best to. And on the show, we tried to reflect that a little bit with some of the movies we did. So we're going to be shifting gears over the next few weeks to just move on to something different after doing so much of a dark subject matter and stuff. So this week isn't a huge shift. It's still kind of some gritty stuff. But this week we're going to do another film that I think is probably, again, when Jay and I first talked about doing this show, we had some movies in mind that we really liked and thought would be good to talk about. And I think this is one right away. This is Brick from 2005, I think. What's his name? Rian
Johnson.
That's right. Yes, Rian Johnson, who I guess is most famous now for ruining Star Wars for old regeneration or whatever. This is, I believe, Rian Johnson's first film, a film that he'd written and had basically put together as early as I think the late '90s, back before he was anybody, just a young struggling filmmaker. And he took the script to various studios and stuff like that. And I guess the script was considered sort of too much of a risk since it was different to entrust with a first-time director. So it took him quite a while to get funding and stuff for this. And so that's why there's quite a few years between when he first wrote it and when it actually happened. The movie is a fairly low-budget movie, but went on to be a modest success. It was at least, I guess, to get his foot in the door, and he would move on to a bigger project. And now he's obviously kind of a big-time director, having handled some very high profile stuff. But yeah, this movie, I can see why, I guess, especially when we get so cynical thinking about the studio system and executives and stuff, like why they would think, well, this movie's too different. I don't want to back something different. It's too risky. It's not safe. They want safe. They want to hear that it's, this new cast and that you can cast this great star in it. And, just they want to know that it's a slam dunk.
Right.
And this movie seems too different from that. This movie's kind of a neo-noir kind of tale. And I can't remember exactly the circumstances when I first saw it, but I was kind of aware of what it was supposed to be before I saw it. Like, it didn't shock me. I already knew that it was going to be based kind of on old-style film noir and hard-boiled detective stories, particularly the writing of Dashiell Hammett. I have a leg up on some people in that I've read some Dashiell Hammett. I read The Mouth of a Glass Key, for instance. So that's where a lot of the dialogue comes from. I can even remember years ago, in the wake of seeing this movie, reading certain reviews and user reviews on IMDb of people that just really didn't get it at all, saying teenagers don't talk like that, and wow, man, you're really missing. I guess you don't understand the context of the movie or what's being trying to be done here. But I mean, I liked it right away. I really like the idea. And it is something that does sound kind of weird on paper until you actually see it, because it takes sort of good acting and the right kind of cast to pull it off. It all sort of starts with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who, to me, at least in my mind, had been sort of in limbo for a few years, and that place between child actor and is he going to become sort of a serious adult actor. I don't think I'd seen anything he was in the 2000s up until this point, and I kind of just sort of lost track of him and forgotten about him. I was saying last night about how it's the first thing I saw him in was a horrible Disney remake called Angels in the Outfield, which I actually saw in theaters back when I was 10, because when you're 10, your options are fairly limited. But I wouldn't have remembered that. I had to find that out years later. When I saw him, the first time I saw him, I recognized him. He was Tommy on Third Rock from the Sun, a show I watched with my family and we enjoyed. And I did not make the connection that I'd seen him, in another movie. Then I'm pretty sure he was the voice of a kid in Treasure Planet, and then I more or less lost track of him. He did a very brief part at the opening of, topically speaking, Halloween H2O. He's one of the kids at the start that gets murdered. And then, I just completely lost track of him, figured he'd faded back into where it is that child actors go before this movie came out. But, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm quite a big fan of his. I think I like pretty much everything I've seen him in. I'm not a big fan of Looper, but I guess we can get there some other time.
That's also Rian Johnson, right?
Yeah, also Rian Johnson. But the first time I saw this film, like I saw it soon after it came out, and then there was a local Blockbuster. This is probably 2005. That
Yeah.
I was always there renting horror movies and stuff back when people still did that. And the guy that worked there was always like, "Man, have you seen Brick?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I saw Brick." And then I'd go in the next week, and "Oh man, have you seen Brick? It's awesome." And like he was just always pushing this movie on everybody. And I said, "Well, shit, I guess I'll watch it again." And so I did, and I came to enjoy it even more than I did, prior. So really, there are some things that kind of annoy me about the film, but as far as Rian Johnson's first feature film, it's like really, really well done. The camera, cinematography is great, and all the actors do a great job.
Yeah, we'll get into that. I was going to say, because of the timing of this movie, this is kind of part of a wave of movies that I specifically sought out because I had heard they were different or something like that. Because this is right about the time where I've kind of made the transition from kind of a casual movie fan into, being more into film, et cetera, et cetera. So this was a movie that, had some buzz in those kind of circles.
Sure.
And I sought out because of that. And I definitely wasn't disappointed when I saw it. And I think, a lot of it has to do with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's very well cast. He just, he's just so great as this character. And as I said, the movie seems a little weird on paper, but when you see it, you're surprised how well it actually works. How well that things like various high school cliques can actually, how they can actually sub in for certain traditional noir archetypes. You wouldn't really think that it would match up that well, but it matches up surprisingly well. It also helps if you have like sort of a background in some of these movies. I don't have a huge background, but I've seen a lot of these hard-boiled detective stories or read them and stuff, and it follows that to a T. In that we got a hero who's tough and street smart and stuff, and he can handle himself, but also he's vulnerable. He can get beaten up and stuff. A huge part of any sort of noir story is like our hero, like arriving in some place, looking for answers, and then like out of nowhere getting like blindsided, and then like coming to like a few like hours later or minutes later, like what just happened, and then like finding some new clue. That's like in pretty much any sort of film noir type story. You always have heroes getting beaten up and bounced around a bit, and humiliated. They're usually put in very vulnerable positions.
Well, he's like a gumshoe, right? And he's just like you expect there to be like smoke and like a sax going in the background or something,
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool how they did that.
But what's good is that it does make something new, because like you said, it has all that, but it fits the new environment well, because it eschews that kind of stuff. It doesn't have the sax. It has a completely different soundtrack, actually done by, I guess, is it Rian Johnson's?
It's his brother, I believe.
Yeah, it's his brother Nathan, who I think has always done his score since then. And I think this is his best score. It's really good, even right from the get-go. The opening, you have this thing with like a slow guitar and stuff, but you also have xylophone. But I don't know if it's I don't know how they recorded it, because the xylophone is either so faint and funny that it doesn't even sound like xylophone. It almost sounds like milk bottles clinking. Like, it's really cool. It really sounds like Of the Street kind of thing. Like, I love the mood the music sets in this. And as you were saying about like the camera and cinematography and stuff like that, I mean, the movie to me is just a really great example of just tight storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
How you can do it visually, like through a movie. We often talk about the difference between, say, a movie and a book is the movie's number one rule is show, don't tell. And right away, the opening scenes are just so great, so visually arresting, and they're so understated, but they tell you everything you need to know. You open with the shot of him crouching over M's body. We don't know what their relationship is yet or anything like that, but we know she's clearly dead. Obviously, Levitt was told, not to really emote in that scene, so he's just sort of, looking at her stone face, which really fits the character and the situation when you find out. The camera just sort of a slow pan out, and you just sort of drink everything in. And then they do a really great transition shot with the bracelet, where you see her bracelet, and then it fades back to the bracelet on her hand when she's putting the note in the locker. So right away, there's a flashback, and we know it's a flashback. And I went back and forth about this, and I realized it still makes sentence that says 2 days previous, because I thought, you don't even need that 2 days previous. And I think, well, actually, you still do, because you need to know the past, but you kind of need to know when in the past. Without the 2 days
Yeah.
previous, you could think maybe it's a year ago, months ago, So it is good. So I wouldn't call that clunky or exposition.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. I know that's one thing that Rian Johnson has kind of flip flopped on, whether or not he's happy with that decision
I think it's the right
to
one.
change that. Yeah, I really think it is. It's not like you're a stupid person watching a film. It gives you context into how far back exactly what he says. He didn't want people to think it was 6 months prior. So I think it actually helps. And it's no way that it hurts. But people say that let the story tell itself. But I think it's kind of necessary in that regard.
Sure.
To give you some context.
Yeah, and I like movies that just slowly peel things back like that. You're off balance for the first little while. You don't know what's going on, but if it's well done, the pieces will come together.
Exactly.
You won't find yourself frustrated. You'll find yourself engaged, and I think this movie is really great at doing that. And just really simple, effective storytelling, just simple traits. He's got the note, and the note tells him the time, and the note tells him the place, and the next shot is very direct, and you could say, "Oh, this is on the nose," but again, it's direct because it's streamlined. It's just a way of keeping things simple. So now we see that he's there. We see the signs. Okay, he's there. He checks his watch. There's a shot of the watch. Now we know that she's late because it's later than the time. And then the phone rings. So now we know she's not showing. She's calling. So that's a lot of information very quickly, very snappily done, very efficient. And I don't know, a lot of movies just kind of, that's an easy enough thing to do, but sometimes movies get away from stuff like that because they're more concerned with other elements and other things going on. And the storytelling suffers as a result. And this is another reason I like the movie. One of the things I'll probably repeat a few times during this is I just find this movie incredibly efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very efficient in what it has to do, but that doesn't mean it sacrifices artistry or those sorts of things. It still has sort of an artsy feel. It still has its atmosphere. It still has, those things that make a film a little more flowery, I guess. But at the same time, it's not a flowery film. It's a straight ahead, straightforward film, but not at the expense of, I don't know, like I said, not at the expense of artistry per se.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess we can go and get into it. This is shot at Rian Johnson's actual high school.
Okay, cool.
So, I can imagine that kind of helps him for producing some sort of emotions he's trying to convey.
Sure. He said that the film was not autobiographical.
Yeah.
Probably not story-wise, but probably at least maybe mood-wise in some ways. And I think I can understand that because, I can remember, things from my own childhood and stuff like that, even maybe my own high school. And, it's an ordinary high school. There's nothing special about it. But I can remember moments where I could feel something deeper underneath where it's like, oh, maybe something is going on here. Something sinister could be happening type thing. You get a look down a hallway, I don't know, a shop behind the building and stuff like that. And you realize, this could work for, something darker and stuff. Maybe he didn't inhabit this kind of world, but he saw how it could work, maybe.
Yeah. It's a really cool idea because, there's not really any school going on, even though this is, times he should be in class. It's in the middle of the day, like noon, and he's, running around, doing all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
Doing his investigation.
Yeah, the whole thing is school is just this big front that gets everybody together, but it's incidental because they're doing all these different things. They all have their own things going on. It's a very self-contained world in that, it's not even an option to think that, kids wouldn't in some way be into the drugs. And that's the other thing, that the entire cast, with the exception of two characters, is basically supposed to be high school age, except for the Pin, who was described as real old, 26. And then you've got two real adults in it, the Pin's mother and the vice principal, or the assistant vice principal, I think it is. I think he's only the assistant vice principal. I'm thinking this school has quite the hierarchy. Because because he often talks about how he's going to have to tell the VP this and tell the VP that. I'm like, what is the principal just above all? He's too important for this shit.
He's not even on campus. He's somewhere else.
This is quite the hierarchy we have going on here at this high school.
You have an assistant principal and a vice principal.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, the school holds everything like together, and like it's interesting because they're talking about very dangerous adult things. Talking about the drug trade and various cliques and factions and the possibility of war and murder and all this stuff. And yet there is some innocent kid stuff thrown in there too. Like they talk about like where you're eating lunch.
Oh, that's the whole thing about lunch. Yeah.
But who you've been eating with? I've seen who you've been eating with, and the whole thing is okay. So the last few months he's basically been eating alone. He's isolated himself ever since Emily left him. He's isolated himself and he's become sort of a complete loner. He used to have connections to these worlds, and now he's broken all the connections because he was so disenchanted about losing Emily to them. And now it's like trying to get back into the world and how difficult that is, but not in a high school way, not in a traditional high school way, more like a crime story type way. Everybody's got an angle. Everybody's got their own agenda, and just like all the classic film noir and detective hard-boiled stories, you go around asking questions, and people don't like it that you ask questions. Most people don't tell the truth, and even the people that do tell the truth are usually holding something back, And I don't know. I always find all that very interesting and engaging. It always keeps my attention. Because we have an opening shot of M being dead. We're pretty sure she's been murdered. She's at the mouth of that ominous tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
It flashes back to the 2 days previous, but it goes through them pretty quick, and the next thing you know, she's dead again. What we know is, the last time he talked to her, she had called him, left a fairly frantic. Well, she left him the note. She didn't show up. She calls him on the phone, alludes to the fact that she can see him, and he realizes that she's at another phone booth not too far from his phone booth. That's the other retro feel of this movie, phone booths being so important. A cell phone is employed, but still phone booths get their due. But anyway, so she says all this stuff, and it's deliberately meant to confuse us. There's even a breakdown of it later, because he says, like he himself, there are a bunch of words and terms she used that he did not understand what they meant, and he runs them by his friend Brain, who is a pretty interesting character, like a support character who's out there to get info for him.
Yeah, and I was reading in the trivia that there's a whole theory out there that Brain only exists in his mind. He's not a real character.
Well, you don't see Brain interact with anybody else.
Once I read that, I couldn't stop thinking that was the case. So I could totally see how people could think that, because it's like he just appears. It's like, especially in the last scene.
Whenever he comes to see him, he's alone.
Yeah. He always says, "Go get some sleep."
Yeah, go get some sleep. I never actually thought about that till you said it, but I can understand. Like I said, you never see Brain interacting with anybody else, although he at least allegedly did, because he's mentioned talking to people for him and stuff like that. Although I guess there's nothing that necessarily backs that up. But Brain's a very cool character. He's laid back. I think probably his exchanges with Brain are my favorites. The movie has its own different sort of dialogue, echoing the style of the hard-boiled stuff from the 30s and 40s, using that kind of slang. So that's something that makes it actually kind of refreshing, because if you think you're going to watch a movie about, a high school in California, kids involved in the drug trade, well, everyone's going to be like, fuck this, fuck that, motherfucker. There's no cursing.
No, you're right. I didn't think about that.
There's no cursing at all, because in this world, they speak in the hard-boiled detective type, the 40s sort of noir tropes and stuff. So they don't even come close to like saying any sort of curse words and stuff. And it's nice. It's nice to see language employed in a different way. And I know there's certain people that will just hand wave it aside and be like, well, it doesn't fit the time. And I guess that's true, but the whole point is it's not supposed to.
I know, and that's really the only criticism I have of the film. I mean, even though I know what they're going for, it just takes me out of it, because it's so different than what kids would how they would actually speak, especially people that age. And they're doing.
It's never taking me out of it. I like it. I like that they make that deliberate choice. I guess some people can't accept it. I just accept it right off the bat.
Well, like, yeah, I can suspend disbelief and watch the movie, but it's just so different than how. I mean, especially teenagers, in high school, we're talking about 15, 16, 17 years old.
I like it. It's so much better. I hate how
It's-
teenagers talk, especially 21st century teenagers. I can't
And
stand how they talk.
some of the stuff they do is just kids that age wouldn't be doing things like that. They wouldn't be thinking about that. Yeah, but I know what they're going for, and I can suspend my thoughts while I watch the film. But
Like I said, I'm happy to because I enjoy it, and yeah, it just makes everything seem a lot more hip and clever and interesting to me. And like I said, it's good. You watch a movie like that's more realistic. What was that one that like what's his name? He was like a big actor for 5 seconds. Emil Hirsch was in like Alpha Dog. Like that just makes me sick. And that's really what those kids were. It's like the same era. It's like 2005-ish. It's like spoiled kids in California getting into drugs and stuff.
Oh, right.
I can't stand listening to them talk. I realize that's authentic, but doesn't mean I enjoy it. So I really like this, and yeah, it just makes him a much more cool hero to me. I love some of the exchanges. I can't let her go. I was set to, but I can't. I don't think I can. Brain, you think you can help her? Brendan, no. At this point, he says that because she's already dead, but he hasn't told anybody yet. You think he can get this straight? Maybe break some deserving teeth? Yeah, I think I could. I love that. I love stuff like that.
Well, like calling the police bulls. They never refer to them anything but bulls.
Yeah,
and every character does. Every single character refers to them like that.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man.
Like it's a little sort of fantasy world. I don't know.
Yeah.
A world where times sort of interconnect.
Yeah.
That's just how I accept it. It's obviously not the real world.
Sure.
I don't have any problem with that. Like I said, the dialogue is one of my favorite things about the movie by far. I don't know. I mean, people do like Shakespearean dialogue in modern settings.
I don't like that either.
To me, this is just another sort of example, except in a more unique way. Because I mean, by this time, we're all kind of sick of the Shakespearean thing that's been done so many times. This is something different. I really like seeing 21st century teens talk this way. And I know it's not at all realistic. That's why I like it. I like it. It's an extra. It's like there's an alternate universe. It's an alternate reality. Whatever you want to call it. It's just a different world where this kind of stuff happens. And this is how they express themselves. But yeah, I really wanted to watch the movie a second time today. Specifically, I wanted to write down some of the dialogue, some of the terms because I enjoy them so much. And it takes again a certain sort of actor to pull it off well. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is so good at the deadpan and so good at like there's a great part like where he goes to the parking lot while Brad is holding court. Blabbing and stuff like that. And he's making, and then he just says something, and Brad goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, yeah." He goes, "Yeah, it's under Y. I can go get it for you." I love stuff like that. Like it reminds me a bit of myself. I was a bit of a smart aleck when it came to sometimes I mouthed off to bigger, meaner kids when I shouldn't have. But so I see a little. I'm not saying I was as clever and resourceful. No, of course not. I was more of an ordinary kid. But I see a bit of myself, a bit of the snarker of myself in this character, Brendan.
Let me ask you this. He went to the what was it, Halloween in January party?
Yeah.
And he saw Brad doing what was Brad doing there? Was he like reciting a play or reciting something?
No, the girl was reciting poetry while playing the piano.
Right.
All Brad was doing was just on this. He wasn't reciting anything. He was just saying about how obviously the coach isn't playing him, and he just keeps going on about how the coach should be playing him.
He was still talking about the same thing, like, I'm the best player on the team, and they're not playing me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Some of that dialogue sounded familiar to me. I didn't know if maybe he was.
I think it's like I said, I use the term holding court, which really fits because that is kind of what in real life popular high school students do. Maybe not in that obvious a way. That's how it is. The popular kids blab, and all the kids that like suck up to them fawn and listen and nod their heads and be like, "Yes, you're right." Like I've seen that. I'm sure you saw that, Phil. some kid stands up and is blah 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 blah. This is this and this, and everyone's just agreeing with them. Yep, you're right. You're so cool. You're so smart. We follow you. Bah bah bah. You know. So that's really what I got out of that. So yeah, Brad twice gives his performance. The first time it has a real theatrical air because he's wearing the toga, right?
Well, he's like Caesar, right? Is that who he's supposed to be?
So it does. It feels a bit like going back to Shakespeare, like the Julius Caesar play, right? Like he's Brutus or something addressing the co-conspirators or something like that. I'm sure that's all very intentional.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, that party is one of the less realistic things that like kids would behave in this way. Like, no, they wouldn't. You know, no, these kids are all
exactly.
They're not listening to the girl who's all prettied up so she can give her a little performance. They don't give a shit about that. They're like,
yes, good job.
They're gonna be like, shut up. They want to play whatever the latest,
Shut up, bitch. Let's smoke a blunt.
Dubstep or whatever it is. That's what they want to hear. They don't want to hear her.
Another thing I wanted to mention about that party, was there a character in there that you noticed from another film that we've done?
From the party.
May was in there. She walked by with her cooler.
Oh no, there was no way I was going to remember that. I'm not very good at recognizing people.
Because you remember Rian Johnson's the one who edited May.
No, I didn't remember. But that's cool.
They were.
She only would have been a few years older, so yeah, she could have fit that in.
I mean, this is I think 1 year after May was made. So
okay, yeah.
And you know, I guess him and Lucky McKee were buddies back in the day.
Yeah, I could see.
But little Angela Bettis cameo.
Yeah. Oh no, I didn't recognize her. That's pretty cool though. And I also like how one of his exes is the girl that's into the drama club and night. So whenever he visits her, she's like done up her. Which is just so again film noir. It just reminds you of the detective going to see some showgirl or something. Like obviously that's what's supposed to evoke, right? It's like she does the can or whatever in the big hoopla show. She has big dreams. That just feels like a staple of that sort of story. So I kind of like that too. Her last appearance, I think, is she African American? She's something.
I believe she is. Yeah.
And in the end, she's done up like a geisha, which is kind of
yeah. She's very cute, but it's some of their dialogue is kind of the worst in the whole movie. I think some of the stuff they say to each other, it's just it's jarring, man. I don't know. It's yeah.
I'm not.
I know.
I'm sucked into the world. What can I say? I like it when especially when he talks tough and stuff. I like when he goes to see Dode, and there's and Dode's threatening him, but he's not afraid of them. They're just a bunch of fucking stoners, right?
And then guess what? I slept last night.
Yeah, he goes, throw one at me if you want, hashhead. I've got all 5 senses, and I slept last night. 6 up on a lot of you. We're all just like. Yep. And what's great is too, after he beats on Dode and threatens him and leaves, one of them's just like, and stay out. It's like, oh, we showed him. It was pretty funny. So yeah, I really like when he talks tough, especially. But yeah, now Brendan's one of my favorite characters probably in a movie. Like if I made a list of favorite characters, not counting characters based on anything. Not Spider-Man or something like that, right? But just characters that are simply movie characters. So I have Indiana Jones is my favorite. I have Marty McFly up there. I've got Steve Zissou from The Life Aquatic, and probably Brendan. They're some of my absolute favorite characters. I just really enjoy watching them. I like their style, the way they talk, and everything like that.
The whole fight when he fights with Brandon. I mean, with the what's the football player guy's name?
That's
Brad.
Yeah.
When it seems so I don't know, almost like a cartoon, and then learning that the character was based on Cowboy Bebop, which I've never really been a fan of or anything. I've never really watched it, but I did.
I don't remember it too well, to tell you the truth. That's one of the ones that's always a name in anime that was always sort of It never resonated with me either. I was like, it's okay, but I don't get why it was more popular than so many others. I guess I'll have to revisit that.
But I mean, apparently that's Brandon. The whole character is modeled after him, the haircut and everything.
Yeah, I guess it's been a while.
the mood,
I know what you mean about the fight being a bit cartoonish, because Brendan just keeps popping back up.
Yeah, he flies out of, off screen all the way over here.
At the same time, he still is our, vulnerable noir hardboiled detective hero. And the fight, it takes a toll on him. He's not invincible. He doesn't heal between scenes the way people do in movies. Like, at one point, he's like coughing up blood and he's going to pass out, because even the fight he's winning, he's taking hits, and it's having its effect on him. So it's realistic.
He's just getting the shit kicked out of him the entire movie.
Yeah, which again is very on point with a lot of these noir stories. And you see that's his real strength. He can handle himself, but it's his wits. He's smart. He knows how to lean on people to get information. He knows how to, and he also is good at predicting how people are going to react and stuff. And that's why he comes up against Laura, who's revealed, spoilers people, as the real problem, the big bad, even though she's pretending to be on his side. She's the one that got Em murdered in the first place. She's the one that did the thing with the brick of heroin and everything like that. Laura herself is also good at this, because she's good at setting people up and manipulating them. She certainly manipulated the hell out of Tug.
Well, she thinks she's manipulating Brandon, too.
Mm-hmm. She does, and then he shows that he outsmarted her.
Did you see that coming, the whole end reveal there?
I didn't see that coming, but because of the type of movie it was, I knew there was more to be said.
Right.
So I can't say, I knew it was her all along. But when I got to her, I was expecting sort of another twist, another layer, because I knew the whole thing at their powwow or whatever that turned into the fight. I knew there'd be more to say after that. So I can't say, I knew all along. Although again, if you pay attention, you can see where it is. If you pay attention in the scene after. The scene where they're on the phone together and she's like, I have to go, and she disappears, and he realizes, and the Mustang, Doug's Mustang drives past, the cigarette that's flicked out was Laura's cigarette.
Right.
After he and Laura sleep together, he sees the same kind of cigarette.
Right.
And he even presses Tug on that later. He says, you got to smoke? And he says, I don't have any. And he says, I've seen you smoke. And he says, well, I don't smoke cigarettes. I mean, I guess he just smokes joints or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I remember seeing him smoking a cigarette at one point, but I guess it was a joint.
Yeah.
But
Tug reminds me a lot of somebody I knew in real life, except maybe not as scary, because at least, Tug actually has a gun and will kill you.
Such an awful character, man. Unlikable all around.
Just a real hothead, just all raw emotion, only one response, violence, violence.
Violence is right there.
And that's why he works for the Pin, and that's why the Pin is able to use him so well, until eventually it gets to a point where even he can't control him.
He's just, he's unhinged.
Yeah. In that you never really understand why he decided, again, it's just a crime of passion to kill Laura. Laura manipulates him into it, suggests that it probably is his baby. At the end, we find out it's most likely Brandon's baby. But there was different points where he, Brandon, and Dode where Dode and Tug both thought it was theirs. And it both led to sort of different reactions from each of them. Dode was really bad for at the end. He was completely manipulated by everybody, including Laura. And, and it also has that great sort of downer type, because you're not expecting a happy, bright ending. He solves the case and stuff like that. The people get their justice, but Laura's still dead. And at the end of it, you think, and just like a lot of the things, Laura's far from an angel. Laura, he loved her. Then she broke up with him so she could date a drug addict. And then she tried to insinuate herself into the world of the higher-ups, Laura and Brandon and the Pin and all these people that pull the strings. They rejected her. Laura frames her and then actually gets her killed. But anyway, also in that, so he's pining after this girl that dumped him so she dumped him for a drug addict, then had another relationship with this crazy hothead, all within 3 months. So
it was at least two other guys, right?
A very short span of time. So Laura's hardly up on this pedestal as some, example of shining innocence. But the fact was, whatever, he did love her. He did really care for her. You can understand that. That's true to life. People, we often look past the flaws of these people that we love. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Kara,
that's the showgirl.
The showgirl. She's the one who points out at one time. It was hard to tell. It was a lot coming in and out or something. I forget her phrasing, but basically, you know, a lot of dudes were.
Yeah, she said just to make him mad. Oh yeah, well, it's also pretty funny about that whole yeah thing then after he beats Brandon in the fight, as he's walking away, some girl runs up to him. She goes, "What's there, a fight?" Yeah. Like, I don't know. So sometimes I think the dialogue is just really cleverly used, and just in a sort of a minimal kind of way. But I don't know. I just really get sucked into the world and believe it, and also this sort of idea of like adults being completely almost absent from it or useless. I love how like the Pin runs a drug empire out of his mom's basement, and his mom is either oblivious or just doesn't care. Because at one point he's got all his soldiers in the house, and she's just like she's like giving them snacks and stuff. So obviously she knows her son is into something, but
yeah.
Right? She's like, okay, well, whatever.
And she's just like, I'm going to go do something in another room.
Yeah, you do your business there. That's Lucas Haas, isn't it?
Yeah, Lucas Haas.
Yeah. He was in a lot of movies around this time, the mid-2000s. He was in a lot of stuff, just like
he used to have a similar haircut to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the long black hair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I've seen him in that.
Was he in like What's Eating Gilbert's Grape or something like that? I'm trying to something around that period of time.
I don't remember.
Like
for me, he popped up in the early to mid 2000s. I'm not saying he didn't do stuff before that, but I didn't know him before that.
Yeah, I remember him doing stuff like he was in Mars Attacks. That was the one I was thinking of.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Trying to see what else I remember seeing him in. I get him and Emile Hirsch confused sometimes.
Like I said, to me, they're very similar, and they were in the same sort of movies in the 2000s. Yeah, Emile Hirsch just dropped off the face of the earth too. Like it seemed like he was doing? Like I don't know, but he kept being like I didn't care about the movies he was in, so I can understand why. Like I hated Alpha Dog, I hated Into the Wild, or whatever it's called.
He did one I liked with, I believe Sigourney Weaver may have been in it.
I thought of him as sort of like a poor, like at that age, like a poor man's Jake Gyllenhaal kind of thing. I don't know. Sometimes he seemed to be like trying to act the way Jake Gyllenhaal was in Donnie Darko. I don't know. Maybe that's just me projecting, you know.
Oh, The Girl Next Door. Yeah.
Oh, it's an awful movie. I loved it. Someday, I never got around to writing it before Five-O-Rama folded, but I was going to make a list that maybe I could write for Cracked or something called Unfunny Comedies. Because and I don't mean, there's lots of fun, there's lots of shitty comedies. You can say it's not funny. But my point is, like, comedies that deliberately just, like, don't even try to be funny, and yet they're billed as comedies. The Girl Next Door is one. The Girl Next Door was absolutely marketed as this great comedy. And it is super dark and serious. It has the odd joke. But really, it's shining a light on, like, how, like, scuzzy and bad the porn world is. And all this. It's super dark and serious. Yeah, it has some jokes, but that would definitely be on my list, that movie. I couldn't believe that movie, honestly. That movie I was in just disbelief the whole time. I was like, I can't believe this is the tone and this is the tack they're taking. Like, I thought it was going to be like this romp. Oh, it turns out she was in porn. No laugh.
Oh, she was in porn. Oh, man, that's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. And, I'd like to see it, have a glimpse into the porn world. Oh, man, it's awful.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy that plays Tug, I don't think I'm really familiar with him in anything else. But
me neither. But yeah, he reminds me a lot of somebody I knew in real life. Looked the same way, dressed the same way. Was kind of a hothead, but obviously not to the degree that Tug was. I'm pretty sure he didn't have a gun. Pretty sure he didn't blow people's heads off. So yeah, you can like from when you first meet him, like before he ever talks, you just see the rage under the surface. Like when he's stomping up, when he sees the car, he's gonna break into the car. You're really far away. Tug is approaching across the parking lot. He won't run, but he's just angrily walking, sauntering, angry.
Well, when Brandon's trying to go meet the Pin, he just keeps coming at him, and getting, punched in the face, or I think he hit him with the car door at one point, and just always coming back at him, and he gets so angry that he won't stay down.
Yeah,
oh, man.
But eventually he begrudgingly respects him. Decides, I will take him. He said, because he says for like the 5th time, like, I want to see the pin. He says, yeah, I guess you do. I guess. I don't know, again, it's just sort of a different way of communicating, which I appreciate.
But it's so funny. Like, Laura set those guys up, so they're pissed off at each other for really no reason. I mean, they shouldn't be, because Tug thinks he's being accused of something he didn't do. Like stealing the drugs, right? Like the pen thinks Tug's doing it and cutting it up or whatever. It's heroin, right?
Heroin, yeah. Got cut, and then that's what Emma's babbling about in the first Coen conversation.
Right. She uses some slang term for it, right?
Like, she talks about the brick being bad because it got cut with the cleaner or whatever, and then the other guy, whatever they called him, the guy with the weird name, the Spanish sounding name or something. Remember?
Frisco.
They're like
Frisco, yeah.
Frisco. Oh, well, he took it and he got put in the hospital by it and stuff like that. But yeah. Because, he mentions a few things. He talks about the pin, and then when he brings Pin to Brain, he says, Pin, yeah, I think I know that. Like, they talk about there being, Kingpin.
Kingpin, right.
And at first I think it's not even a real person. Then they find out there really is a real person. Because he says, if you talk to all the dealers and stuff like that, they'll talk about the Pin, but none of them ever actually saw him. You're like, maybe it's just made up. But the Pin is real. And again, he's real old, 26. Living in his mom's basement.
I love the scene. This is after he left the mom's house, and then he went back to school the next day, and the Pen shows up in like an old Astro van and picks him up, and there's a lamp. He's like sitting in the back, and there's a lamp right there next to him.
Yeah.
And he basically just tells him he wants to hire him for something.
And they drop him back.
And they just do a loop and then drop him right back off. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. Again, very detective type thing.
He has a cape and a cane. Like, come on. Is he a pimp or a kingpin? Come on.
I don't know. He takes it seriously.
Is he a vampire? What the hell is he?
Yeah. At one point, just before Dode turns on him, he calls him like a gothed up cripple.
So he actually does need the cane to walk then.
Yeah.
He does. Probably got some sort of spinal issues or something.
Yeah. And you get a good. There's only one scene that really says much about his character. It's after he's been hired, and he and Brendan are walking along the beach, and he sits down and he goes, "You read Tolkien?" He goes, "What?" The Hobbit book. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, he's really good at the descriptions. Makes you wanna be there." And you really get a sense of how lonely this guy's life is in a way.
It really hit me, but it caught me off guard that old dialogue. Say what? This guy's just like a closeted nerd who sells drugs on the side, right? He just wants to talk about Tolkien all the time.
Yeah.
Which I was the same way.
Yeah. But as I said, I really like how the various archetypes of film noir sort of line up pretty well with these high school cliques and stuff like that. And then you've got within the high school concept, you have popular dumb, like Brad, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
Laura pretending, but is actually quite clever and diabolical, really. Now, she never intended for Emily to die. Emily dying was just sort of incidental to her overall plan. But again,
right.
She didn't care.
I don't think it was anything personal either. I think it was just a scapegoat, just someone to take the fall.
Very much so, yeah. I think so. Still, she was a pretty good manipulator, particularly the way she manipulates Dode and Tug. Like I said, you feel really bad for Dode. It's just like this burnout. He gets to be with Emily for a little while. And then he's pretty sure that he knows that, and then he thinks that he got her pregnant, and then he's pretty sure he knows that Tug killed her. And
is that what he said? I thought Brandon killed her. Or Brendan, because
he saw him with the body.
Right. I thought he was gonna, when, again, spoilers, when he gets killed, when Tug shoots him, he says, I know who killed her, and then he shoots him. So I thought he was gonna say Brendan, but Tug obviously thought he was going to say him
Yeah,
because he actually did kill her.
yeah, he did. But yeah, to get back to about like the tight storytelling and stuff like that, the camera's very effective. I like how there's a few places where the first time we see an area, they'll like frame a shot without anybody, and then the characters walk into it.
Oh,
That
I
happens
love
a few
that.
times. I mean, that happens in other movies too, although I can't really think. But it's done really effectively a few times in this. The locations were chosen pretty well. The tunnel where
The
Laura
tunnel
died.
is great. That's spot on, man. I love it. Both shots of it when they're down in it, with the shot looking up out of the tunnel when Dode gets shot, and also when it shows her body for the first time.
Yeah.
You see the exteriors there. That's some really
There's
great.
a lot of movies that I know are pretty good, and I enjoy them the first time I watch them. But sometimes I need to think about them more and stuff like that. This is a movie where, like, within the first 10 minutes, I knew I was watching something really good.
Yeah.
Like, I was really into it. I was really engaged, and I was really impressed already by what I've seen. A lot of it has to do with Levitt, but again, the other cast does well too. They all buy into this world. They all buy into this low key sort of snappy dialogue exchanges and stuff. And I don't think it's ever too over the top, because it's still. I mean, that stuff is in there, but there's still plenty of sort of normal dialogue interspersed between words. It's not like you need to really, like, you're not going to be lost even when they say like some weird slang that you don't know. Like, context helps you out. I mean, I'm sure there are people that are dumb that it doesn't help them out, but I think that a fairly intelligent, savvy moviegoer can handle this movie the first time going in, even if you haven't read any Dashiell Hammett.
I feel like the average moviegoer is really going to be thrown off by that dialogue.
Yeah.
And not going to be able to get past it. But maybe I'm wrong about that. But I mean, this is a pretty big indie film, right? I mean, it's pretty like a cult classic, I guess you could call it.
Yeah. What's funny is, like, as much as the movie has quite a few influences, more so than just Dashiell Hammett and stuff like that. And it's the one movie that always makes me think that I'm like too hard on the Coen brothers, because this movie was very influenced by Coen brothers style, particularly a movie that I can't stand, Miller's Crossing. I am so bored by Miller's Crossing. I want to, like, smack my head on the wall when I try to watch it. And yet this movie takes a lot of cues from Miller's Crossing, supposedly. And I know it's a movie that Johnson, in talking about this movie, said, really influenced him, and he had a lot of admiration for it. And it always makes me want to watch it again. But every time I try to watch Miller's Crossing, I just can't get through it. Like, I don't like the acting, and I find the stories really draggy. I'm just so bored. Watching Miller's Crossing. And I know lots of people love that movie, and most people just shake their heads hearing me say this, but I can't get into it. I'm like so bored, and I don't like the characters. And
I do agree with you. I do agree with you on that one. Is John Turturro in that one too? Yeah, I think he is, isn't he?
I think so. It's been a while.
It's the Irish guy plays the main gangster.
Okay.
Which I don't care for him either.
I know Gabriel Byrne's in there.
Yeah, Gabriel Byrne. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
But I could totally see that. There are some scenes that I like a lot, but
I don't particularly like or dislike Gabriel Byrne. He just is. He's fine.
Well, I don't like him in that role.
Yeah, I don't. It didn't seem right to me either. But like I said, I know I have a certain amount of bias for those movies. But Miller's Crossing always on the surface seemed like the one that I would find the most acceptable, and it's never worked out that way for me. I've just never been able to enjoy it. It's been years since I watched all the way through. Like I said, I've had a few aborted attempts in the last few years where I'd read something or somebody would reference something about Miller's Crossing, or somebody would talk about how it was good, and I'm like, I should give it another chance, and then I do, and then I still don't like it. So I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to come around to that one.
Well, I mean, now that we're talking about it, why don't we just go ahead and
sure.
I mean, because obviously you don't like the Coen brothers, quite a bit. Have you seen like the majority of their movies?
I think so. I haven't seen Hail Caesar.
You're not missing a whole lot.
Let's see. I've seen Blood Simple, which is fine. I don't think it's good or bad.
You seen like Raising Arizona, stuff like that?
I got no problem with Raising Arizona. It doesn't feel like their other movies to me, really.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of quirky.
Fargo is their best one, but I used to dislike Fargo, not because I thought it was bad, because I couldn't stand how much people liked it. For some reason, that bothered me. People talked about Fargo as like this film noir, noir masterpiece, modern. Again, I couldn't see it. I think Fargo is a very effective, to get together movie, and I enjoy it fine. But they love Fargo. It was a huge deal.
I love Fargo too.
Yeah, see,
Fargo's probably my favorite. Like I could probably recite Fargo.
That was my favorite too, I guess, but I don't love it. I like it fine. And then after that, they get into movies that I really strongly dislike, like Crossing.
You hate the Dude movie too, whatever that is.
I despise that movie. And that's another huge cult movie. The people, and I hate meeting people that quote it and stuff. I can't stand those people.
The Dude abides, man. Come on, dude.
Shit, what is it called?
Lebowski, The Big Lebowski.
Big Lebowski, yeah. Yeah, that movie, I just seize with rage for every scene of that movie. I hate the characters. I hate the plot. I hate the dialogue. I hate everything venomously about that movie. And I hate even more, again, like Fargo, it has this massive reputation. People love it. It's, it quotes it, we're cool because you know the dude abides, blah, blah. John Goodman's so good. Like, I hate it all. I hate it.
I think that one's more popular than Fargo, actually.
Probably it is, and I don't dislike Fargo. I think Fargo's good, just massively overrated. I still like Fargo, and I very much like the show they made on it. I still haven't watched the third season. I'm going to get around to it soon, because I'm sure I'll like it a lot. But, but definitely, that's the main thing I can't stand about the Coens. And of course, the very first movie we ever did on this was No Country for Old Men, which, again, I think is a very average movie that gets all sorts of credit for things that I think are stupid. Like, to me, the story's super haphazard. It just, I don't know. It doesn't seem to follow any sort of narrative that I find entertaining or effective. It's just, this happens, that happens, this happens, that happens. But everybody thinks Javier Bardem's so great because he's a weirdo. Like, just being a weird character doesn't make you a really memorable, cool character. Just because he has a really weird woman's haircut, because he talks funny, and he kills people, doesn't make him awesome. But yet people think, it's such a killing, effective shit. I guess fine. I mean, if he is, I'm telling you wrong. I'm saying I'm incapable of seeing it. To me, he's just a bizarre weirdo of a character that, like, has this reputation for being cool that I cannot fathom.
I think we may have actually mentioned this when we did that episode, but did you ever see the Saturday Night Live skit that had, this was the year There Will Be Blood, and then No Country for Old Men were both up for Oscars.
About the I Drink Your Milkshake thing, which I still have no idea what the context is. I've never seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it. That's right.
So I know they had a sketch that did the I Drink Your Milkshake thing, although, again, I have no idea what that references in the movie.
Fred Armisen may have played both characters, but I know he played Javier Bardem. I just remember him dragging the tank around, the air tank, his weapon of choice. It's pretty funny. I like Fred Armisen.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, the fact is, you're right. Dode never changes his mind. He does think it's Brendan. The whole thing is he thinks he's building up this great reveal. He's going to say something close to it, but he doesn't realize that Tug thinks he's talking about him, and that's why Tug kills him. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't change. He thinks he's going to tell the pin right here. Oh, yeah, I know who killed Emily, and here he is. But he meant Brendan, not Tug, but it got him killed. And Brendan kind of knew that was going to happen, but there wasn't much he could do.
I love that. When he gets shot, it's so cool looking, because first you see the blood spatter, and then you see the it's like air. You see air shooting out of the back of his head, and it's so cool looking.
Yeah, it's really effective. It's really
I don't know how it looks real. I mean, I don't know how they gave it that effect. Yeah.
I mean, it's great too, because there's all this build up. It's very suspenseful, all this build up, and it totally pays off.
He really pulls the gun out, and shoots him rather quickly too. So it's kind of a shocker.
I think so.
He's probably the most sympathetic character next to him in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Well, maybe even more so than him. Because he was like, I would have loved that baby.
Yeah.
Really feel sorry for the guy.
Yeah. No, Dode has a pretty depressing arc, like I said, in it. And he dies without even knowing why. To him, Tug shoots him out of nowhere. He has no idea what's going on.
When he's not the lead singer for Green Day, he's getting his head blown off.
Yeah, Billy Joel Armstrong. But yeah, sometimes this movie could be referred to as sunshine noir, which means like it's a noir movie, but it's still more brightly lit than the typical noir, which fits anyway because it's neo noir. But again, it's different from a neo noir. I just like how it takes. I mean, that's what I do as a writer too. I mean, I take things I like and I build on them and I expand them, and that's very much what Rian Johnson is doing here. There's a few references in there. I think it's Laura or somebody who says to him like, "Oh, now you are dangerous." That's taken verbatim from The Maltese Falcon, which is one of the most famous film noirs of all time. There's the whole thing with Laura when she's in the really thick stage makeup is just like a scene of one of the characters in Once Upon a Time in America, which is my favorite gangster movie. Or at least my favorite non-Asian gangster movie. Might be my favorite name. Yeah, anyway, it's up there. Like I said, I always take great pride in pointing out that I like it way more than I like Godfather. People like me love to point out that we're different. Like, oh yeah, you like Godfather, we like Godfather. I like Once Upon a Time in America. But anyway, it's not like I don't like Godfather. I like Godfather too, but I like Once Upon a Time in America a lot. But anyway, so that's a reference. And if you had to pick like a traditional film noir that this movie fits like structurally, like the way the camera moves and shots, it's probably The Big Sleep. Slow panning camera, tight on the characters. I'm probably when I talked about that whole thing about framing a shot and then a character walking into it, I can't say for sure that is The Big Sleep, but I'll have to double check. I bet it does.
I was trying to look. I mean, you don't really see neo noir done anymore.
It seems to have petered out, hasn't it?
I'm trying to think of any other movies in the 2000s. I mean, like Memento, maybe, but
Memento. There's one. There's some lower key ones that aren't so great that I still kind of like. There's a film with John Cusack called The Ice Harvest.
Oh yeah, I like that.
It reminds me a bit of Fargo, actually.
It's what Ang Lee, right?
Yeah. Or no, Ang Lee did The Ice Storm.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, which is a drama, which is good, but no, The Ice Harvest. I don't know who directed it, but it's I haven't seen it in a long time. But it's a pretty good movie. It's not great.
I've seen that then.
Yeah, you should check it out. I think you'd like it. I can't even really remember the plot, but crap, who plays the mob boss in that? I'm gonna have to look that up.
Billy Bob Thornton. Oh, Harold Ramis directed that. Wow.
Yeah. Hold on, I haven't seen this movie in a few years. I need to refresh myself of the details. It's not great or anything, but it would certainly fit neo-noir. And I think you would probably like it. I usually like movies that have John Cusack as the leading character. Yeah, maybe that's why I think of the other, because of Billy Bob Thornton, who I traditionally don't like. I don't have any problem with him in this movie. He's fine.
Sling Blade is your favorite movie of all time.
Super. It's not bad or anything. It's just I just find it's just so predictable that I can't get any enjoyment out of it.
I think I like Sling Blade for some of the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I laugh. I laughed all the way through that movie.
Randy Quaid. Randy Quaid's like a mob boss.
Wow.
And he's quite entertaining. Yeah, the whole thing is like Randy Quaid is some sort of like low-level mob boss, I don't know, and John Cusack is gonna like try to swindle him or something. I don't know. I think you would enjoy it. I'm not saying it's a great movie or anything like that, but it is a rare example of a 2000s neo-noir type movie. I think you'd enjoy it.
Cool.
I'd like to see it again because it's been quite a few years and then I forget most of it. But it's in Kansas. It's like Christmas Eve. Something to do with like embezzling money and stuff like that. And I don't know. But yeah, Randy Quaid's quite entertaining. It's like this kind of mob boss guy. And John Cusack's our sort of noirish hero. He has all those sorts of traits again. He's not necessarily tough, but he's kind of smart, blah, blah, blah. I think you'd get a kick out of it. I'd like to see it again. I haven't seen it in a long time. But that's what comes to mind when I think of sort of neo-noir from the last.
Still, that's been 13 years ago.
It's like 2005, 2006, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's something I'll have to look into because we both like them. I still haven't seen those Pusher movies.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I know those are really good.
Those are good.
I'm sure I'd like them. So yeah, I saw the movie as recently as yesterday. I still feel like I really lost something by not getting to see it again today. just so it'd be in my memory a little sharper, particularly the music. You know, because I can't remember how to describe the music. I just remember mostly, except for the opening scene, but I remember that I really liked the music. And then I looked up, and yeah, I saw that Rian Johnson, his brother, did the music and his other movies too. But this is the music that really stands out to me. Is really effective and sort of unique. Doesn't just sound like, well, you know, stock soundtrack, whatever for this part, emotional music for this part, you know, intense music for this part. Like it all sort of stands out. I think it opens with a part that on the soundtrack would be called Emily's Theme. It's really good. Has that sort of tinge of sadness to it. So the movie, of course, has a whole sort of tinge of melancholy running through it in this sort of dark, depressing world. Really low-key stuff. In the end, justice is served, but in sort of a roundabout way. But again, that's sort of to the credit of Brandon and his cleverness and the way he can set things up. Although, again, he certainly didn't. He specifically went into that beach because he wanted to prevent, you know, a bunch of bloodshed.
Right.
He couldn't do it, but at least he got out and managed to get out.
And the way that whole thing goes down is hilarious. Like he, like he gets out, he has the gun, he just throws the gun back in there with those two guys.
Yeah.
I do kind of feel sorry for the pen and the.
Yeah, I know, because he's getting beaten to death.
I mean, he's, you know, probably at a disadvantage anyway. He's, you know, handicapped.
Yeah, and then you know for sure he didn't get a hold of the gun because you find out that Doug definitely killed him and then tried to shoot his way out and got gunned down by the cops.
Right.
The Bulls.
The Bulls, yeah. They should have called them pigs.
Well, I mean, that's what people call them, right? I kind of like that they didn't.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it would have been funny.
Yeah, I mean, pigs is what people call them. Even I've used that term.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know that people don't like a certain disrespect to law enforcement, but I'm kind of jaded when it comes to law enforcement. Obviously, there are good cops and there are bad cops. That's, you know.
That's a good fun. I don't think that's really disrespectful.
Yeah, I just some people get really sensitive about it.
I'm not going to call them that to their face.
No, it's
just they'll arrest me.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I don't like. That's petty. They shouldn't be able to arrest you for that. There's no law against being rude to a cop as long as you're not like obstructing justice or whatever like that.
Yeah. If they want to find something, though, they can always find something.
And they're petty enough to do it, and that's what I don't like. To me, that's a petty, and that's an abuse of authority. I don't want to be rude to anybody. I'm not going to talk about my woes and my problems, but I've had a few run-ins with cops where I felt like they were not at all professional, where I felt that they were petty, and you know, sure. I'm not a criminal, and I've never ever been charged with a crime or anything like that. So, you know, I don't like getting hassled by the man.
The man. Yeah, I remember someone was telling me, I think it may have been a police officer, was like, you know, just do what they say and go along with it, because there's so many like little laws out there, like even like with the amount of like tread on your tire that they could write you a ticket for if they wanted to, you know, just like little tiny things. Like, you know, you see in movies, they're like, well, you got a headlight out, like they'll break your headlight or your tail light or whatever. But there's like lots of little things. So
I've talked my way out of speeding tickets like 3 times. I've been pulled over and never gotten a ticket because I sweet talked them.
No, I've never. Well, I've been let off before, but I'm never good in a. I can't really sweet talk them.
No,
I'm not good at that.
Relatively speaking, I don't mean I'm hitting on them.
No, I know. I
don't mean I'm flirting with them. I just mean I kind of knew.
Well, that was your terminology.
Yeah. Well. I just meant I pretty much read them and knew kind of the right things to say to get out of it.
Sure.
I think. One of the times it happened, you know, I couldn't tell the truth, which was, it's your fault I'm speeding. Which was, I don't know, I was coming home late at night on the Glace Bay Highway. And I was in the outer lane for no reason. There was no reason for me in the passing lane, but I was. And I was already above the speed limit. Then I saw somebody pull into the lane behind me, and I was like, "What? Not fast enough for you?" So I cranked it up, and then he flashed the lights. You know, I wanted to say, you know, I wouldn't have done that if you hadn't antagonized me,
right?
You know, because I just thought, oh, there's some asshole out here that's thinks he's gonna, pass me, even though I'm already doing the limit and more. Like, so I cranked it up deliberately because I was annoyed that this car behind me was coming at me. I didn't know it was the cops. And they flashlights. But anyway, I got out of that one. But yeah, so I couldn't tell him that. I couldn't say, "Well, you provoked me."
It's your fault.
Your fault. Because yeah, I talk about being petty. I guess I can be petty as a driver too. Because sometimes I get really. That's actually my maybe angriest state. It's funny. I'm really kind of cranky as a driver. Like every other car on the road, whether they're obeying the law or not, annoys me. When I'm driving, every other car out there is just there to inconvenience me. They could be, completely following the law, doing the speed limit, reading the signs and stuff, but they're in my way and I don't like them. So I'm actually a very irritable driver. I don't drive that often, but when I do, I guess I'm kind of irritable about it. Everybody just pisses me off. And I take it personally when I get passed on the highway. Like, what? Not fast enough for you? Which, again, what led me to the whole thing with the cop that time. So, I don't know. It's funny, like, I don't think I ever noticed that until, like, a little more than 10 years or so, or something like that. I don't know. I was picking up a few of my friends, and I picked up my friend Gavin, and we were driving maybe to see Ryan or something like that. We weren't too far. And I don't have much one-on-one alone time with Gavin. He's one of those friends where, like, I see him with other people, but not usually just him and me. And it was just sort of a different moment because we were together alone before meeting other friends and stuff like that. And I wasn't even talking to him. I think I was muttering about other drivers and stuff like that. And he just said to me, "Well, you're kind of like an angry driver, aren't you?" And the reason that it hit me was not just because what he said, but because it was Gavin. And I always thought of Gavin as kind of a cranky guy myself. Like, Gavin's kind of an ornery type guy, like not like a mean way, but you know what I mean? So to have him say it really sort of hit me. I was like, wow, Gavin thinks that. There must be something to it. I don't know. Yeah. There is one curse word possibly in the movie. It depends upon how you interpret it, that you don't hear. Because at the very end, she whispers and she says "mother," and then she leaves. And he says, "Well, what did she whisper to you?" And says, "She called me a dirty word," which would fit. That maybe she said "motherfucker."
Right.
But it's left up to the imagination. Although I don't think it's really deep. It's not like the ending of Lost in Translation, where it's like, "Oh, what did they whisper?" I don't think it's quite that. But I like that too. That he called his ass, and he says, "That's all right. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to." No.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about that. It's people always hate when you leave things, ambiguous like that, or not fully explaining it.
I like the thing she said, "mother," and it was some sort of allusion to Emily, just to get one last dig at him, right?
Right.
Like, he's got her. She's going down for it. The cops are going to find their way back to her. She's going to get arrested. She's going to go down for it. So this is her last little petty thing to dig at him. One more thing to say something about Emily. So I thought the mother was something like that.
Like the mother of your child is dead, or
By the way, I didn't know this because this is not a Dashiell Hammett story I read, but I found out online here that that's also an homage to a short story he wrote called "The Girl with the Silver Eyes." The ending being, "She put her mouth close to my ear so that her breath was warm again on my cheek, as it had been in the car, and whispered the vilest epithet of which the English language is capable." So it's probably "motherfucker."
Mm.
And we have to think of context too. I don't know what they thought the worst curse word was back like in the 30s or 40s. The way things change. Language is fluid, right, and always changing. I think that's another reason why I like this. Like, oh yeah, it's not like the way teenagers talk. I don't know, but in 20 years, teenagers can talk a different way again. So language is fluid.
Yeah.
I don't curse, but I mean, you get a little tired of that dialogue. I mean, everybody gives a lot of credit to, what's his name for his great dialogue, but I find it's always the same kind of stuff. Tarantino, He's so in love with, fuck and the N-word and stuff like that. I don't know. I think he's just...
Uh-huh.
It's not like he can't write good dialogue, but he just really wants to be edgy and gritty and true to life. I don't know.
It does seem like he just...
Who I've really changed my opinion on over the years. Like, I used to really like him. Now I don't dislike him, and I still like some of his movies, but now that I'm older, I can't like a lot of his movies with the same fervor that I used to. Like, maybe I'm just more jaded. I'm not as easily impressed anymore. I don't know.
I think it's just funny that he wrote a role for himself in Pulp Fiction where, like, he's good friends with Jules, a black guy. He's married to a black woman, and he uses the N word like a few times. In that movie, I just think it's like he wants to be black, right? I mean,
He really
or he thinks he's black.
And it's really embarrassing. I'm sure you've seen it like in YouTube, like if he's talking to black people, how he tries to talk like them. He changes the way he speaks when he's talking to them, like when he's getting interviewed and stuff, which is really embarrassing and not the right thing to do, especially considering it's just like not all black people talk that way, you know.
Why don't you give us an impression of how a black person would talk? I'm joking.
Right? You know, it's like that scene like where Ron Burgundy's like blabbing all these ebonics at the family, and they're just like, you know, we don't talk that way. And he's like, oh, big papa, blah, blah, blah. Like that's what I think of fucking Tarantino just trying to fit in so hard. And he always acts like just because he's cool with black people that like it still doesn't make you that way. Like for instance, speaking of another filmmaker, the great Ralph Bakshi. He grew up with he lived in an all-black neighborhood, was the only white kid in a black school until the cops took him out of it because they were worried about it creating a situation. His first girlfriends were all black and stuff like that, and he still knew not to like toss the N-word around.
Yeah.
You know? Like he was like, yeah, of
course not.
I hung out, but he still knew he was the white kid in the room.
Right. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, like I still like Pulp Fiction, but I don't love it like I used to. It's still a really good movie. It's still entertaining. It has lots of great stuff, but I no longer hold it in a really high esteem I once did. I still love Kill Bill.
I was thinking earlier I'm going to watch Jackie Brown tonight.
Yeah, that one's okay.
I don't know. I like Tarantino a lot. Whenever I start thinking the way you're talking right now, I go back and watch some of his movies and just like, God, I love this so much.
The difference between me and a lot of people is I never ever liked Reservoir Dogs. Ever. I've never liked that movie.
I like it, okay. I don't love it or anything. Yeah.
And it's always going to bother me that the movie that like landed him on the scene was just him like ripping off like some Asian film, almost like beat for beat as far as the plot goes. Like he's just like, I know, I'll do City of Fire, but I'll cool it up with my cool dialogue, and everybody think I'm like the next generation of great filmmakers is here, and it worked. And it's not like he can't do original things. He did original things since then. But I don't know. But yeah.
Which one was that? Which one are you talking about?
Reservoir Dogs?
Oh, Reservoir Dogs. Okay.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs is the same plot as City on Fire.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I've seen City on Fire. I don't think I realized that.
Well, he pretties it up with his 70s music and, Steve Buscemi and what's his name and makes it seem different. That's all.
He cuts the guy's ear off.
I tried to say, like, he sucks now or anything like that. I'm just saying I still like him, but I can't the way I used to, teaching them flaws and problems and stuff.
But I do think his strong suit is writing dialogue, though. I mean, he goes overboard a lot of times, but
it can still be very effective.
Yeah.
Like that whole opening scene of
oh yeah, we talked about this before. Yeah,
that's a really great scene, really edgy and stuff. Yeah, we said this before. He obviously got that whole building tension thing from Once Upon a Time in the West, which did the same thing, although again wasn't quite as wordy. But dialogue is kind of my thing as a writer too. So obviously, I like writers that do dialogue. Kevin Smith is a writer that relies on dialogue. I like him. So
as someone that really sucks at writing dialogue,
dialogue is hard.
It's not easy at all, man. Like, I mean, I'm not a good writer by any means, but I cannot write dialogue to save my life.
I think dialogue's maybe not my best thing, but it's one of my strengths for sure. I think it's just because to me, it just comes down to being able to listen to people.
Sure.
You listen to people enough, you hear it, you get a rhythm, you know how people talk.
Sure.
But I mean, at the same time, I don't think any writer should necessarily be bound by that. My characters talk the way I want them to talk. Mm-hmm. And if somebody isn't going to like that, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, another writer that does good dialogue, Although again, it's funny. Anytime a writer is known for dialogue, it'll eventually become a backlash where people are just like, "Oh, I'm so sick of his fucking dialogue." And it's the same thing in comics with Brian Michael Bendis, who I'm sure wowed a whole bunch of people in the early 2000s with his dialogue, and nowadays people are just fucking sick of it. But you know, it's interesting when you talk about the ages of comics with the gold, silver, bronze, are we in the modern, the dark, whatever. But there was definitely sort of a shift from maybe 98 into the early 2000s where dialogue finally in the comic world became somewhat good, in that even some of the best comics, like from the older times, the dialogue is silly, it's clunky and dumb, way too expositional. That's probably the main difference you'll find in reading any comic made like after, say, like 1995 and any comic before. Is that thought balloons are gone. There's no such thing as a thought balloon anymore. We have the caption boxes and stuff, but there's no more thought balloons. And then, honestly, there just wasn't enough confidence in the artist, which I think is bad. You know, you read like a Daredevil from 1975 and somebody will shoot at him and he'll dive over the bullet. And that's fine. There he is. He's dodging the bullet. And for some reason, the writer felt the need to put in a thought balloon where Daredevil was thinking, just barely managed to evade that bullet. Or you know, something stupid like that. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's what comics are just loaded with, like in the older days. And that's what's really changed. But anyway, my point to Brian Michael Bendis, I'm sure that one of the more important comics of what might be the modern age now is the very first Ultimate Spider-Man. Like the first few Ultimate Spider-Mans, almost nothing happens because it's just so much dialogue. Like I think it's like issue 6 or 7 before he even gets his like fucking powers. I don't know. I think a lot of people probably lost patience with that. But then there was a whole new generation like mine that was completely fine with it because we thought it was good storytelling. And also, Peter Parker was now in high school again, which at the time was something new and novel. And it felt like the stuff that he said was like typical snarky high school stuff, which I thought was pretty good. But anyway, nowadays, 2018, I'm sure most people are sick of Brian Michael Bendis' shtick. But at least for a few years, a lot of people were impressed by it. I'm still impressed by it. It's still good. I still model myself after a little bit in my own writing. So yeah, dialogue is a hard thing to write. And as I said, one of my favorite things about this movie, even though it's precisely because it's different dialogue, it's not realistic dialogue, it's different, but it's effective and entertaining to me. Mm-hmm. But I have to say that this movie was so good and had such a cool style that it's actually made me kind of disappointed in Rian Johnson's career arc.
People love Looper. I'm just not one of those people.
I'm not either. I think it's because I'm such a big, again, it has to do with being comics and stuff like that, and just such a big, sci-fi geek and stuff like that, that Looper just is not acceptable to my idea of time travel. It doesn't fit it. To me, it's half-assed and skirting the rules and I don't know, just sort of ignoring them.
I don't remember it well enough, but I don't really feel any need to go revisit.
That is so I might revisit it, but I know I'm not going to like it anymore.
Yeah, that's why I'll watch something else that I like, or may potentially like. Yeah, let's see. Oh, Nathan Johnson is actually his cousin. Okay. I don't know. I was thinking brother. I'm sorry.
Related anyway, and they've done music since. I'm sure that and I know he did music for that. But yeah, we won't go on to think about why we don't like Luther, but I don't know. Yeah, so many people seem to think it was sort of a really smart, edgy, kind of like this is the new sci-fi.
It's like a sci-fi film for people that don't like sci-fi. It's like a.
That's the way I felt. Like my geek sensibilities were upset. I'm just like, this movie's just like ignoring all the stuff, and it's turned into a story about a guy holding up at a barn. Like, why do I care about that? He's a guy holding up at a barn. It's like, I'm like, this is like Witness or something, and Witness is a lot better. Because honestly, that's all that movie is. It's just like, you can even just take out the sci-fi stuff. The whole thing is, I'm a dangerous man, and dangerous people are after me, and now I have to hold up in this barn. I'm getting close to a wife and her kid, or a woman and her kid. I'm starting to care about them, and now I'm going to protect them when the bad guys come after me. Like, it doesn't even matter the time travel stuff. And as we said, like, they were just so thrilled to get Bruce Willis. They didn't even think through that, like, Bruce Willis, like, prove me wrong, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and age into Bruce Willis, please. I want to see it.
I don't want to see it.
He doesn't even look like he could be his uncle, let alone his future version of himself.
Well, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's like Keanu Reeves. He's got like an odd Asian look to him. I mean, I know he's probably maybe has a little Asian in him. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of his. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. His the ethnicity, I believe, will be the correct word.
Yeah.
But you know, like Keanu Reeves can play like different characters. You know, really gives you some range. But not playing Bruce Willis's younger self.
Yeah.
He just looked weird with all that makeup or CGI, whatever it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
But apparently Nathan Johnson invented a bunch of instruments for this film, such as
maybe that's why the xylophone sounds so different.
Such as
maybe there's the xylophone.
The winophone.
Oh, maybe that's it. There you go.
The metallophone, tack pianos, filing cabinets, and kitchen utensils, all recorded with one microphone on a beat-up Apple PowerBook. And most of the scoring was done over Apple iChat. Rian Johnson would play a clip of the movie, and then he would score on top of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now that I look at it, I haven't really seen too much of Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like, I was really happy that he's in the Sin City movies because I think he's one of those actors that totally fits it. But, you know, Aim to Kill For came out so late. It was too late. You know, he's good in The Dark Knight Rises. I thought Don John was dumb. He's in one of my favorite movies just as a voice. He's the main character in The Wind Rises. But it doesn't even sound like his voice. It sounds kind of different.
Who does he play in Dark Knight?
He plays that cop that eventually they suggest at the very ending, you know, he finds the cave and maybe he'll carry on the legacy.
Okay.
And they had that throwout where, like, when he's quitting or like that, his, like, legal name is Robin or something, you know, some sort of throwout.
Oh, okay.
And there was even talk about him being, like, the new Batman going forward in the DCU, and then, of course, it didn't happen. But anyway, yeah, he's the cop in Dark Knight Rises. He's pretty good. He certainly should not have been in G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. That was awful. I've never seen Inception. I have no plans of seeing it. But I'm interested in seeing Mysterious Skin now that you bring it up, because it's part of that weird limbo he was in just before Brick, because it's from 2003, 2004. But what did you think of Don John? I remember Pezzel really liked it. He even did a long review about it and stuff like that.
They're like porn stars, is that right? Or
no, something? What it is, it's just about a guy. He's just an ordinary guy, and he's trying to have relationships. But the fact is, he's, like, maybe not addicted, but he's really into porn. And it's just about trying to balance his life. He's trying to date women, but he's always disappointed that the women never live up to the porn. Even to the point where he actually starts dating, and I'm sure he's the one who wrote the script, so he cast her himself. He's just like, you know, what's her name? The it girl.
Scarlett Johansson.
Right? So he even starts dating Scarlett Johansson, who they try to make super unattractive because she's got this, like, fucking Bronx accent that's awful. It's awful. But anyway, she's still hot as hell and stuff, and they're dating, but he still talks about, like, how it's just not as good as the porn and stuff. And then I won't ruin it, but eventually he's going to get involved with some other woman, and it works out better for him, kind of, and stuff. But a lot of people, like, seem to think the movie was really refreshing because it was sort of, like, honest about, like, the way guys view sex and the way porn has altered our view of life. But I'm not gonna. I don't know. It seems like a lot of times when I'm on air, I find some way to, like, talk about my sex life or something, or, you know, like. It's so good, or I'm so successful with women. You know, I don't mean anything like that. But I will say the movie did make me feel good about my sex life. Because the movie seemed to reinforce, he kept pointing out that, like, porn was way better than real sex. And then when you were with, like, a girl, especially if she was hot, like, the hotter the girl was, like, the less she would do. Like, this hot girl. Right. And he would just say, you know, and when it would show him having sex with Scarlett Johansson, they made it really unsexy. Like, he's just on top of her missionary going, thing. Not great. And then they have to go watch the porn later and stuff like that. And I remember Pezzel did a review of it. He said, like, his girlfriend asked him, do you do that? And all I could think was, I was like, I don't know. This is more information than most people want to know, I guess. But I always kind of made sure the sex I had was like porn. I saw the porn. I wanted it. So I made sure that's how it was. I was never with a girl that was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Or, let's, you know, I was never... If I was with a girl that didn't have any passion or energy or imagination, then, and I'm just thinking, so the movie just raised the question to me, does that really mean that, like, people out there are just having boring, terrible sex? There's no reason to. You don't have to do anything special to have sex like in porn, usually. I mean, yeah, okay. giant cocks, giant tits, whatever. The actual act, there's no reason you can't do what you're seeing. These aren't superhumans. They aren't doing amazing things. Like
Sure,
if they're trying like a position you never tried before, you can do it. You don't have to be some sort of master to do a different sex position. I think some people putting sex on like a crazy pedestal is like, yes, wild, crazy sex. Normal people can't have it. Sure, they can.
Well, I mean, I think it's actually probably is becoming a problem because it's porn is like it's there. You know, you don't really have to do anything to achieve it. I think younger generations than us. I know I've heard Korea's having a problem with this. Like the guys don't even go out and date anymore; they just watch porn all day. Like,
yeah, like I understand the point the movie's making. The movie is making a good point that yes, a generation of people growing up on porn, it changes your expectations and your ideas about sex. But I still don't think there has to be a massive disconnect. All I can, again, I'm not trying to tell people too much about my own personal life. All I know is that if there was something I saw in porn that I thought was good and I wanted to do, then I fucking did it. I didn't find it that hard. So I feel sorry if the movie is suggesting that there's a whole bunch of guys out there that just isn't an option for them. That if they're dating chicks, the chicks are just like, no, because I'm not talking about filthy, horrible acts degrading. I'm just talking about sex.
You're talking about like regular stuff, like regular porn, not like crazy porn.
Yeah, I'm not talking about crazy porn. I mean, I've watched that too, and some of it's cool, I guess. I mean, everybody's watched some crazy porn because it's there.
Yeah.
Some of it's too much for me, right? It's like, I don't want to do that. Like, it's kind of interesting to see. It doesn't mean I want to do it. But no, I'm just talking about, like, the movie is basically just talking about, like, certain camera angles, like the girls on top bouncing and stuff. I'm like, there's no reason that can't happen. But they make a point of, like, when he's having sex with Scarlett Johansson, it's just really mechanical and not sexy. To really get off later, after she's asleep, he goes and watches porn. And I'm thinking, it's really like what guys do now. That's sad because, I don't know, if you have a sexual partner, all you have to do is tell them what you want, really.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that in some regard, but porn is like, I mean, I'm talking about like the quality, like good production quality, and like you're talking about like super attractive people, that are, very well endowed on both sides.
And, like I said, but the movie is really more talking about the sex itself, because the fact is he's getting Scarlett Johansson, who could be a porn star, right? Because it's not saying like, I see these chicks in porn and they're so hot and beautiful, but they're not accessible to me. In the movie, she tell me Scarlett Johansson wouldn't have made a great porn star. No, you know what I mean. Not disrespect to Scarlett Johansson. I'm just saying if Scarlett Johansson at any point in her life had walked into like a porn office and said, "I want a job in the industry,"
I think she could be a great porn star.
The guy behind the desk wouldn't be like, "You're gonna have to prove this to me." I don't know. You don't really seem to have the look. Are you kidding me? She fits all the things. So that's another problem I have with the movie. Because, I get that. Like, the whole physical side, it's true. We see these beautiful people, like you said, with well-endowed, and all these things are in perfect shape. And maybe that's not the reality, and it's very hard for the average person to find that. But the movie's really just talking about the sex itself, because he does find that. He finds fucking Scarlett Johansson, which is amazing. So I have a lot of problems with the movie message-wise and stuff. But I know the movie got a lot of acclaim for him, like, again, just sort of like, taking sort of an honest look at this sort of subject matter. I get it, but I think they're wrong in a lot of regards. I think they're wrong. You should watch it and see what you think.
Okay. I'll check it out. I think he may have directed that one.
Yeah, he wrote and directed it.
Oh, did he?
Like I said, no wonder, and the Scarlett Johansson was his own idea.
Yeah, I think he's kind of going behind the camera more now.
He really is a fan of film. Like, I know actors are, obviously, it's their life. But, he's one of those really into film type guys. Which is why I like him a lot and why I understand that he was so well suited for something like Brick, which is very much a film nerd kind of movie. Kind of stuff you and me and people like us appreciate. Like I said, around the time when Looper came out and he was really big, he hosted Saturday Night Live. And for his opening monologue and stuff, he talked about like his passion for film and performing and all this, and he did the Make 'Em Laugh song from Singing in the Rain. And if people aren't familiar with that is an insane number. Like the guy that does that, that is ridiculous talent. And
he's a talented guy, yeah.
Like he's doing the same thing. He's doing like the wall back flipping off the wall. He's dancing around because not only you have to sing the song, but you have to run around and do all this super like intense physical stuff while you're doing it. One thing that always hit me, and this was when I actually did watch it for a film course, and I took a film class a few years ago. We did a lot of films. And of course, we did do Singing in the Rain. What strikes me about Singing in the Rain is not only are they like really good at just doing these big musical numbers, but these are done in one shot. And for most of it, there's almost no editing trickery. You watch somebody like who is that guy? Why can't I think of his name? But the main guy in that, he's in so many musicals. Why the hell? Gene Kelly.
Mm.
You watch Gene Kelly and stuff like that. He's not even fucking breathing hard. Like it blows my mind. Like he's doing like these incredible dance moves. He's singing at the top of his lungs. That's not dubbed in later. He's singing it now, and he's not even breathing hard. Like it's crazy. So even if you don't like musicals, just physically what the actors are doing in that movie is. So I really appreciate it from that point. But anyway, my point was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He knows all this. He's a student of film and he loves all that stuff. And that's really kind of what made it for me. Like I saw him in Brick, and then a few years later I saw him in SNL, and I've seen him in some interviews and stuff, and he comes across like he's really into stuff. Storytelling in general is a communal act. Throughout human history, people would gather around, whether by the fire or tavern, and tell stories. One person would chime in, then another, maybe someone would repeat a story they heard about, but with a different spin. It's a collective process. That's just a quote of his talking about storytelling. But so yeah, I've kind of lost track of him in the last few years, but I still like him very much.
Yeah, I mean, with this track record, he's definitely earned some time off. But
he's going to be in a Fraggle Rock movie.
What?
There's going to be a Fraggle Rock movie, and I guess
Jim Henson's dead. How the fuck are they going to do that?
I don't know. They've been doing lots of Muppet movies since he died.
That's true.
And his son is still around, and Frank Oz is still around.
I guess it's going to be live action then?
I don't know. I just saw that it's TBA at the moment, so I don't know much. The latest thing he did was like Snowden, which I never bothered with.
I didn't either. I've been thinking about trying to watch that, but don't really have any desire to watch that.
Yeah, me neither. Just like he's in like Lincoln or something, and I've never been interested in that.
I'm not going to watch Lincoln.
It just doesn't really pick stuff I've been too interested in lately. That's all. But Rian Johnson. He's a big fan of Game of Thrones, I see. I haven't really seen that in any of his movies so far. But, I don't know. I'm not going to get into it, but a lot of people, of course, like I said, he's a buzzword nowadays for Star Wars. I really like The Last Jedi. That's all I'm going to say. We're not going to get into it. But I think it was really good. I actually do. But so I can understand people maybe not liking too much, but I'm really surprised by people hating it as much as they do. But, that's the world we live in. And I understand. There's almost no fan in the Star Wars one. I'm part of it, but I'm a part that I actually like this movie. Anyway.
Yeah. I think some people are just determined to not be happy with anything new.
Yeah.
I think people are just curmudgeons. Like, you go into it not wanting to like it.
Yeah, and there's more of those people than I thought, and there are a lot of the people that hate the movie and other movies coming out nowadays because they always say, "Oh, it's full of SJWs and stuff like that." That doesn't. I guess I can't even relate to being bothered by that. I guess it's because I never really understood the term social justice warrior properly. Because it used to be, okay, the first time I used to hear people say, he's a social justice warrior, I thought, oh, okay, I get it. You're mocking him. You're saying this guy thinks that he's, prevailing for social justice, that he's making a point, that he's making a statement, but you're mocking him saying he's really not, he's just an idiot. I found out, like, over the last few years that that's not what they're saying. They're actually mocking him for being exactly that. They just don't like it. And I'm like, You don't like social justice? You think social justice is a bad idea? Apparently that's what they're saying, as far as I can tell. Because I used to think, they're just saying, oh, you're just a fake, you think you're for social justice, but you're really not, or you're going overboard. But that's actually not what they think. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it, but there's this whole thing now.
It's become a buzzword.
Now there's a comic date, and just every day I see more of it. And it makes me sick.
Well, yeah, I guess we won't get into it, but I mean, like Star Wars. I mean, people, there's a black stormtrooper. There's an Asian girl in the Force Awakens, whatever the Last Jedi.
With aliens and stuff.
That's
people of different races.
I mean, the original Star Wars had people of different races too. I mean, I don't know.
I just think out of all the context to get upset about like racial diversity, Star Wars is weird. I mean, the whole point is diversity. There's aliens and droids, and and people
so
from
are you.
Why did they
they're going to be in an interracial relationship too. I mean, is that what you're angry about? I mean, what if it had been two people of the same race? Would that have made it better for you? Like, would you not hate it as much? Because I think that says more about your own problems than you have a problem with this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's that seems to be one of the main complaints I'm hearing about it. Like, of course, they put an Asian girl in there. Like, why not? Was it that distracting? I mean,
are they that offensive to you? An Asian girl?
Why does it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's really dehumanizing. These are people like reducing people to like, tools. Of course, they put an Asian girl in there. What do you mean, of course? What are you talking about? What? They're the hip, cool thing? They're human beings, for fuck's sake. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, and I know that the Asian girl from that movie, like, she had left social media because all these people hated her just because they didn't like her character.
Oh, did she? Wow, I didn't know that.
They hounded her right off. Like, I know because I followed Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill was like talking about how disappointed he was and how furious he was at the supposed fandom that hounded this poor actress for doing a job. Like, what the fuck is their problem? Even if you didn't like the character,
dude.
Actors play characters I don't like all the time. It doesn't occur to me I should harass them for it. Holy
anybody's going to jump on that, man. That's a job of a lifetime. It's like the biggest movie in the world to be a part of.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much anymore after that movie, but it was at the time.
But yeah, no, I'm just upset with all this anger directed at things like this. Things that used to be fun. Things that were supposed to find fun, and now there's just all this anger, and so many people thinking are on the side of right. I won't get into the comics thing. It just makes me mad to think about it. More sad than mad. But it's always the same thing, The people that are like the stupidest and most ignorant, they always have the loudest voices. They're the ones that rise to the top, There's all sorts of good, smart, well-adjusted, respectful people, but they're quiet, and they get drowned out by the ignorant assholes.
There's plenty of things that I don't like, but I'm not going to be that like aggressively hateful. I don't know. It's I don't know. Like when I dislike things, it doesn't really like make me to where I want to like be violent.
Yeah, I also saw a thing yesterday on Twitter about somebody saying like how when they say like tagging, is tagging on Twitter just like when you put somebody's like name up or whatever?
I think so.
Because they were just saying how like there are a lot of people out there that want to trash movies, and in trashing it, not only would they like tag the director, they'd like tag like every actor, every person they could find that had anything to do with it. Like crew members were getting tagged and told that they made like a piece of shit and stuff. Like as if like the set painter should really be blamed if you didn't like the movie.
He's just working.
Yeah, they're just working. They're doing the job. They're doing what they're supposed to do.
Sometimes you work on shitty movies. I'm sure that's part of Hollywood or part of film industry in general.
So yeah. So not only are people like super angry about movies they don't like, but they just want to like lash out at everybody about it. Like I hate some movies, but I don't do anything about it. What am I supposed to do? Yeah, I guess I should start like harassing the Coens. I think they're overrated, so I guess I should just do whatever I can to make sure they know that I think that. It's really important that they know, like, what the hell, man? Like, I realize that I'm just a person. I have an opinion, whatever. People. Yeah, it's really important. My opinion is known by everyone about everything. I mean, you can say, "Oh, you two are doing this show." Yeah, so it's a little show. No big deal. I don't think we're getting anybody's faces about it or anything like that. We mostly are positive on our show. We're trying to mostly say about things we like. There's things we don't like. Yeah, so we say some stuff we don't like on the show. I don't think that's really the equivalent of like, I don't know, going on my way to like harass people and stuff like that. Again, they made a movie I don't like. Yeah, better.
No, but I mean, on this show we point out positives and negatives.
Exactly. No, I'm just saying. So I'm sure anybody watching would think that anyway. But yeah.
Let's see. I was just going to go through a few other Coen Brothers films since you've seen it. I watched the Hudsucker Proxy again.
Never seen that one.
And I remember liking it, but I really couldn't get into it this last time. It's like really, really odd film. It's like set in well, maybe the 40s.
Probably they like that stuff.
Yeah.
I know what it is. I just never seen it.
Have you seen Barton Fink?
Yes, I don't have. That's another one I don't have like any sort of venom for. I don't like or dislike it really. It was a movie kind of thing.
What about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Despise it. There's another one. That's another one that I absolutely despise. I remember I saw that. It was my first year at university. And there was this big thing that, like, over in, like, the auditorium where, like, my big lecture hall was happening. They were having, like, this free movie night. And that was the free movie. It's like, from the Coen brothers, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's a free movie. And I went, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I don't know. All the years later, my opinion, sometimes, things change over the years. That's never changed for me. I was just like, oh, it's just a bunch of George Clooney running around being a hick. And I don't know.
It was popular.
It was popular, and the soundtrack sold like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with... Obviously, I'm not a person that's going to like bluegrass. I think that's pretty obvious. Bluegrass is not my thing. But and I also didn't like... And I recognized right away that the story is like a loose modern retelling of the story of Odysseus. And I didn't like that either. Like, because I didn't think it was well done.
John Goodman is a Cyclops. Come on.
Yeah. No, so that's another one. So, like I said, there's a few that I haven't seen. There's a few that I'm okay with. And then there's a few I absolutely loathe, and that's another one. I loathe that one.
You may not like it, but you got to give it some points for trying something different. I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
At least it's not the same old shit.
Yeah, that's true.
No,
I never liked it. Really don't like it.
What about the remake of The Lady Killers?
I heard it was bad, but I didn't see it.
That's not good.
Critically, it did really badly. Bad with Tom Hanks. That's too bad. That's a movie I kind of even would have liked to have liked, but I hear he's like super over the top and stupid in that movie.
Watch it, see what you think. It's really fucking weird.
Okay.
It's got an ensemble cast like J.K. Simmons.
They did an okay remake of what was it? True Grit.
True Grit. Yeah.
I have no objection to True Grit. That's a fine movie.
That was just a straight movie. Like there was none of their comedic stuff in there at all.
Right. So I didn't have a problem with it. And I even kind of liked how they expanded the ending a little bit. There's like a bit of an epilogue, which I thought made the story a little better when she's old and, because it kind of shows like she got her revenge, but it didn't really help her or any. And I don't know. I like that. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen the.
I'm fine with that movie.
The original, what is it?
That's the Duke.
The guy that had all the shit in his colon when he died. Compacted feces.
John Wayne.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen both versions. They're both good.
Let's see, what about...
I'm a big John Wayne fan, but that's one of his better ones.
I'm not a big John Wayne fan either. I've seen...
He just plays John Wayne, right?
I mean, maybe a handful.
Speaking of like how, we talk about Oscars so white, how white Hollywood was in the 50s, he played, what's his name? The Mongolian.
Not Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan in a movie. Well, yeah, we've come a long way, people. I know it's not perfect, but they used to cast John Wayne as Genghis Khan. So,
well,
I know that we're not, everything's not perfect yet, but we've come a long way.
Let's see. What about Burn After Reading?
I saw that, and I had no idea why it was supposed to be so funny. Everyone said it was so clever and funny. That was dumb. It's not one that I really hate, like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou or the other two I mentioned, but I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb.
What about A Serious Man?
I haven't seen that.
I figured that's one no one's ever seen.
What the hell is that? I don't know it.
It's basically, I think it may be autobiographical of some of their childhood. It's about young Jewish boys.
I'd give it a chance. I don't even think I've heard of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just kind of blind bought it when it first came out on Blu-ray back when I used to do that. And yeah, I like it quite a bit. I haven't seen it in a while, but I liked it when it came out. It's not really something you would reach to watch again, but it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then Inside Llewyn Davis. You haven't seen that one, have you? Yeah.
No, I know what that is. I don't even think I was aware that was them.
Check that one out. That's one I think you might like.
Yeah, okay.
And then Hail Caesar, I'd say skip Hail Caesar, but
I've seen parts of it on TV, but
you may like it. I don't know. It was not for me.
it seemed like something I would like if I didn't know they were attached. Like, I kind of like the setup and stuff, like making fun of like old Hollywood and stuff.
Yeah.
But what I heard is people that even people that like the Coens were mostly kind of blasé about it.
That's the way I was. Yeah. I'm a fan, but they're kind of hit and miss for me. But again, at least they're trying something new. It didn't land for me, but
yeah,
it's different, and I don't think that movie did well at all. So I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think they're like doing very well, like as far as making money off their film. So I don't know what they're.
They still have a very sterling reputation.
Mm-hmm.
That I kind of get, even though I mostly think. Sometimes I think of them as overrated hacks. Other times I think I'm going a little far. I don't know. You just have to. It's hard to put into words just how much I hate a few of their movies and how that stands out for me. Because like I said, I can't wipe out the things that I think are good.
Yeah. But I mean, like, look at Steven Spielberg, man. Like, with the exception of Ready Player One, I'm sure that one did okay. Like, I doubt his movies have made money. Like, Lincoln, you think Lincoln made money? I mean,
I don't know. But yeah, the last like 10 years
like
probably.
War Horse. I mean,
War Horse was a critical darling too.
I haven't seen any of these newer movies he's done.
But I don't think anybody saw it. No, I haven't. I remember we talked about this. Like, I don't even. I'm trying to think what the newest movie of his is that I saw.
Did you see Ready Player One?
No interest. I read like a bit of the book in the bookstore, and I was like, it's not.
Book is not good.
It's not my thing. It's for people maybe 10 years younger than me.
You may like just seeing some of the references in it. It is cool seeing like Ninja Turtles and just stuff from our childhood. It's just nonstop references.
When it becomes available on my movie channel, I'll watch it. Like, it's not like I made up my mind not to watch it. I just obviously was not going to see it in theater. And like I said, I did not think it was. From what I read of the book did not grab me at all. I was just like, okay, I see what you're doing, and it's I don't know. I can often get into things that are supposed to be for people that are older than me or younger than me. This one, I just really feel like I'm just really am the wrong age.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not even for people like us that like are a bit older that have some memory of the 80s. It's for people that like are too young to remember the 80s and kind of wish they could. Like, he even says that like in the monologue in the movies. Like, I wish I lived in the 80s or I don't know, some bullshit.
That's why all of his stuff is like modeled after the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be like a Bill Gates, Steve Jobs type thing, and this is kind of what I gathered, because these two guys like work together, and then they split, and one guy creates this huge thing, and the other one is like the bad guy in the film.
Oh yeah.
Which I guess that would be Bill Gates. I don't know.
I'll watch it when it becomes available to me. I will certainly watch it. I'm sure it looks really visually good. Almost all Spielberg movies do, and I know this movie probably had like a crazy budget. And I'm sure there's things that I'll be able to enjoy about it.
Just being able to license all those characters, I can't imagine how much money they spent. Because this got everything you could fucking imagine, man.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I don't think they spent nearly as much as you think, and you know why I think that? Because of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. When Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out, that was 30 years ago. Steven Spielberg was already so big that they didn't pay for almost anything. He simply convinced them to let him borrow it. He had that much cachet in 1988. So I'm thinking they probably got away with a lot of stuff and borrowed a lot. You can just ask to borrow. If you get their permission, you don't have to pay. And I'm guessing that probably the power of Spielberg did it again. Because, I mean, if he could do it in 88, he could definitely do it now.
Sure.
Because, like, almost no studios made them pay anything. I think they had to pay for, like, fucking Betty Boop or something. But yeah.
All things.
Yeah. Like, pretty much all the other characters, Spielberg convinced them to let them borrow it. So I think it probably was the same deal here. I mean, Spielberg's only even more powerful than he was 30 years. He might not be as relevant as a filmmaker, but he's an even more powerful figure nowadays. I mean, he is the man.
I just think like
he seems like a great guy.
Like Toho and Nintendo and Sega, all those guys, just, people that are generally not easy to work with,
Mhm.
As far as stuff like that goes.
Only Spielberg could have made this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you may be right. I mean, yeah.
It's a suspicion I have. I can't be sure, but I'm just going based on what I know about who framed Roger.
Steven making a personal phone call saying pretty please.
Yeah,
may actually get the job done.
A lot of weight.
Yeah, I could see that. Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, check that out. It's like a big battle at the end. That's really cool. But it's kind of like style over substance for me, really.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes movies like that, I still like it. Yeah, I can recognize that, but I still like it anyway because I'm just like, well, it still is a really good style.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's certainly movies like that. I mean, that's pretty much like why I like Equilibrium. Mm-hmm. Equilibrium is totally style over substance. The main plot is kind of flimsy and stuff, but I don't mind because I just think it's really cool and flashy and, the way it's executed. So I can live with style over substance with some things.
Equilibrium is like, it's like 1984 or Minority Report or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I went back and watched that probably 5 years ago. I liked it a lot when it came out with that gun fu. Was so, cool.
Cantata.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I still really like it. I always think it's the movie. It's my alternative to The Matrix. I'm just like, I like this way more than The Matrix.
It's like, hey, remember before Christian Bale was a household name?
Yeah, but he was doing cool stuff even before that. I mean, he did that. He did American Psycho.
Yeah,
he's always done cool stuff.
Newsies, come on.
Not so much Newsies. Oh my god. But yeah, what's amazing about this movie is like just how low key it was, because like was it like a low budget? It was shot in 20 days.
Wow.
I mean, so it was obviously not just an efficient movie. It was obviously efficiently done. 35 milliliter.
That's crazy, man. That's a crazy length of time for an indie film, just because, someone who's just doing their first feature film, you wouldn't think they would have everything laid out properly. But
yeah, I mean, he had the script for like 7 years, but you're right. Once it came to actually making the movie, and I'm looking at some of the logistics here. Some of the places he was looking for, like the locations and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you hear a lot of younger directors saying, "Oh yeah, I learned a lot on that picture." As far as made mistakes and learned from them. So I don't know. That's an awfully short shooting schedule. Maybe not anymore, but it seems like they're shooting films in like a weekend now.
Mm-hmm. And this film is just so well edited too. Like there's fade outs and smash cuts and stuff like that, and they're all expertly done. They do a really good job of going from scene to scene, letting you know when there's like a location change or a time jump and stuff like that. Instead, it's just all very quick to the point. It's really great at visually giving the audience information, letting you know everything without having to spout a bunch of exposition. But yeah, I know we talked a bit about the 2 days previous thing, but it is needed, and I don't think it's clunky or anything. It helps, but it is still a really great moment because we get the fade in on the bracelet, and then the bracelet on her when she's opening the locker. To the point where I when I was looking up pictures, like that's used a lot in a lot of promotional art. Is her with the bracelets. Very powerful shot.
What do you call those? Like they interlock together almost, but they weren't.
Yeah, I know.
Like they fit together. I don't know. I'm sure they have a name.
Sure, there's
not a bangle, but
I'm not sure.
I've learned all these words. I don't understand this stuff.
There was a little tiny bit of stuff cut out of the film, but I guess it's not too important. It says here an additional 7 minutes for cut, including a shot of the actress that played Laura's naked back. She put her shirt back on after the characters had sex. According to a post by Johnson on his forums, he felt that the nudity felt wrong in the context of the film, and he preferred to leave the degree of intimacy ambiguous. which I think is fine. You know,
So
it's not a movie that needed.
It was a stand-in for the nudity.
No, it was her,
Oh,
but it was only nudity from behind. It was just her naked back.
okay.
I guess it was shot. I guess after they're supposed to have sex, her naked back, and she's putting a shirt on. It's from behind. He cut it. I think it's true. It's not a movie that needed like a sex scene or anything. Like it was implied they spent the night together. That's enough, really. You know. So I don't have any problem with that cut. That's the only cut that's mentioned. There's probably a couple others. That's the only one that's mentioned on Wikipedia that I was just checking here. Yeah, I can get how there's a certain audience that is just going to find it off-putting, the oddness. The stuff is going to seem out of context and weird to them. Like you said, some of them might be jarring, but I bought into this almost immediately. I'd read about it before I saw it, so I knew what I was getting into. I knew it was going to be like that, and I was probably excited for it. And then I was really happy and just how well done I thought it was. And I had to give a lot of credit, not just the writing, but to the characters, how well they play up Joseph Gordon-Levitt the most. I really like how he can deadpan lines. I think his lines are very succinct and carry a lot of weight. I like a lot of the back and forth he has with Brain. That's probably my favorite dialogue in the movie. You're right. I think sometimes maybe some of the dialogue with some of the girls is a little sketchy because it runs the risk of being a little too on the nose about this whole film noir thing. You know, trying to play them off as various terms.
Yeah, I think this film kind of skates the line of, art house, film school style, schlock. I don't know.
It never gets.
It's not there. It's not there, but it's not far away from it.
It never gets there for me.
Yeah, but I mean, do you kind of feel that way too, where it's?
Once again, I feel like, if it was a different cast or something, it could have all gone horribly wrong and just been, like you said, sort of like a schlocky failure, where they try something sort of ambitious and it totally doesn't work. But I feel like everything's super effective. So.
Yeah, I agree. Have you ever seen The Brothers Bloom?
That's a weird one because I always meant to see it because I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson and this movie, and I always thought The Brothers Bloom was sort of related to his stuff.
Oh, really?
Because it's got like a lot of the same cast people and stuff, but I still haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's what he did after he made this movie. It was a few years later. It was this was 2008.
Yeah,
he wrote and directed that. Stars Rachel Weisz, Adrian Brody, Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah. My understanding of it was kind of like, maybe I'm wrong, but my understanding of it was kind of like his best imitation of a Wes Anderson film. That was kind of the vibe I got from what people said about it. And I was like, okay, I'd like to see that. I like Wes Anderson, so how about an imitation of it? But it's just a movie I just never got around to. But could be good.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to check it out because, it's definitely some decent actors. It has a good score on here.
Yeah. It was a big flop.
Mm. I remember when it came out, but I just never watched it.
No, it was a movie that I'd forgotten about, but it was a movie that I meant to watch because, like I said, I'd heard some things that made it sound like it evoked kind of a Wes Anderson type vibe, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. And I never did for whatever reason.
Huh. I'll put it on my list.
Yeah, I remain interested in it.
I do this stuff. I put it on my list, and I wound up watching it like 5 years later. I'm like, why did I want to watch this again?
Johnson himself said like the most direct influence was Paper Moon, which is a really good movie.
Oh yeah.
Peter. I love The Sting and House of Games, but Paper Moon was really the first thing, and I obviously like those movies too, The Sting and House of Games. I know House of Games is a movie that some people have asked us to do on this show. So
which one?
House of Games. I think that's David Mamet.
Oh really? I don't know that I've seen that.
I saw it a long time ago. It's a good movie. I'm pretty sure somebody asked us to do that before. So it's a possibility. So think about it. I think you'd like it.
I know I've heard of it. What else has Mamet done? I know that name.
Well, he's mostly known as a playwright, right?
Oh, okay. That's right.
But some of the stuff has been adapted. Maybe most famously, I always forget its title. The one about with Jack Lemmon and
Glengarry Glen Ross.
Glengarry Glen Ross.
I like that. But he didn't direct that, right? It's just based on his work.
Yeah, he wrote the play. I don't think he directed it. But
He wrote Wag the Dog too. Okay,
it's a cool movie. So yeah, so his plays are more acclaimed than the movies, but he's done some decent movies too. And then of course there are some movies based on his plays. But he's another guy that he's really a clever guy with snappy dialogue and sort of a cynical viewpoint of the world and stuff. But I think House of Games is the first thing he directed. Yeah, it's his directorial debut. Anyway,
okay.
it's a cool movie.
Cool.
It has a fairly young Joe Mantegna in it.
Yeah, I see that. It looks like Ray Romano.
I can't even remember it, but you're right. But anyway, I barely remember it. It's been so many years. All I can remember is I liked it because I like David Mamet and I always knew it was good. But anyway, so maybe that's something we might explore going down because I'm pretty sure at least one person asked us to do that on this show. So
maybe we can cover that when we do some crime drama stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, Brick's a good crime drama, but I mean, we always do crime drama. But I know we're going to do some more Asian crime drama stuff as we promised, and yeah, we'll fit that in there too. I think.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So we're into November. Super disappointed that it doesn't look like my theater is going to get the Suspiria remake.
And that it must have like a really limited release if it's not playing near you.
Well, the thing is, I'm not going to get certain movies I used to get anymore because we used to have another theater block that would get those movies, and it's gone now. It was just a single theater.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And it's gone now. So
that sucks.
So yeah, it really does suck. Because yeah, now I've just got the few multiplexes around, and I thought, okay, one of them's really big; it might have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Oxford, which is where I saw. Speaking of, we're thinking maybe doing in the near future. That's where I saw Amelie, for instance. I saw Amelie at the Oxford. I guess the last movie I saw at the Oxford was Wind Rises, which is like almost 5 years ago. But the Oxford probably. So I kind of took it for granted because I don't think it closed for another 2 years. It only closed like maybe a year and a half ago. I remember the last thing I saw that was playing there that I noticed was I didn't see it was the second best, the sequel to the Best Exotic Gold Hotel or whatever it's called. That's the last movie I remember playing there. But yeah, I'm going to miss out on some of those independent or foreign films, I think, because of the Oxford being gone. Which really sucks, because at the time I just thought, okay, well, they'll funnel that into the theaters here, but it does not seem to be what they've been doing. So yeah, I'm really disappointed about that. So I'm trying to think what's coming up in theaters and I'm interested in, and I can't think of anything. I really don't know. I know a lot of people are talking, of course, about Overboard. It's not even that I don't think it's going to be any good. It's just not what I'm interested in right now, I guess. Is the way I look at it.
Is that already out? That's already started playing?
Yeah, I think or maybe it's this week. It's like first week in November, maybe. But it seems to have a certain amount of hype. When I saw Halloween, I saw a fairly big trailer for it. The trailer made it look good. It looked very cool and exciting. When it first came on, I thought it was like a movie version of Wolfenstein. I was like, is this Wolfenstein?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Movies like that, they can do a really cool trailer and they may not amount to shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Underworld or something,
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. Man, they made a bunch of those. I only saw the first one.
They had a bunch of those. They just made a new one like a year or so ago.
Yeah, but I think it's the first one that Kate Beckinsale's out in. She's in all the others.
I think she came back to do one more. Yeah.
She played that role for like 9-10 years.
Well, someone else played it, and then I think she came back and did it one more time and said, "This is the last time."
Oh man, I didn't know that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I also didn't know when she stopped doing that they replaced her. I just thought they did a different character. I didn't think they got somebody else to play the same character. Maybe that's why she came back. She didn't like them recasting. I don't know. She's a vampire. She's not supposed to age.
I don't have a problem with her at all. I don't.
No, they're just dumb movies.
What is that, man? Yeah, it's that and those fucking Resident Evil movies.
Yeah. They're like
I feel like I
dominated.
should like that, right? Like I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Why don't I like those movies?
No, I especially don't like the Resident Evil because I really like them. Even though they're convoluted and complicated, I still think the plots in the games are good, and they just abandoned them. And I hate it, as I said, nothing I hate more than seeing an adaptation of something I like that gets a million things wrong, but then gets a few things right, because then it just really insults me. Because they'll have, like, Wesker show up with his sunglasses. They have a thing in, like, the one from 2010 with, like, suddenly, uh, who had been ignored the whole time. Suddenly, Chris and his sister, what's her name, Claire, show up. Like, they suddenly, after ignoring those characters, there they are, but they serve no purpose. They're just there. Like, because the whole thing's about Alice, who they just completely made up and turned into all this garbage and stuff. Just like in the second one, which is yeah, I can watch the first and second one, and I can swallow them. After that, they're terrible. The second one, they even nailed Jill's look, but she's not important. Again, she's just some side character. It's all about Alice. There's Jill Valentine, but she's not important. Who gives a shit? So that's what I really hate about movies that do that. I hate it when like they just stomp on everything, and then they throw you a bone by actually doing something, but there's no point to it anymore. It's like, yeah, there's Jill Valentine, but the movie's not about her. It's like, oh look, she even looks the way she looked in Resident Evil 3. Isn't that nice? Well, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. Like, I hate that. I'd rather than just get everything wrong and not have Jill in there at all. That really insults me. In comic book movies and stuff, really does.
I saw the one with her, and what was that, part 2?
With who? With Jill?
With Jill Valentine, yeah.
It's Apocalypse. I can't even name it. It's just like Resident Evil, then Resident Evil. Then I have no idea how the names go.
Extinction or some crap like that.
One of them.
I'm not gonna even pretend to.
But one of them, like the end, like it's this garbage movie. But then the end sequence, like there's this whole thing with Wesker, and suddenly out of nowhere, Chris and Claire show up, and he's like, Chris and Claire Redfield. It's like this is our first time ever seeing them, and like it's still all about Alice. This just completely made up action character that can just do anything. Runs on walls and chops off zombies' heads with swords. And,
I really liked the first movie. I will say that.
I kind of liked the first movie, but I was still mad even right from the start because I was just like, it has nothing to do with the mansion. It's all underground complex bullshit, Like, I don't care about. I want the mansion, Well, I found out really fast that these are just super in-your-face 21st century action movies,
It's like Michael Bay stuff, right? Like car explosions and.
What really insulted me at the time was when people would talk about movies like nowadays being like a video game. What they mean is, it's just like mindless blowing up and stuff like that. And I'm just thinking, in the case of Resident Evil, the video games, at least the early ones, were so much. Wow, that's an awful chair.
I'm sorry.
Were so much more intelligent and slow paced. The first few, like the first 4 Resident Evils, like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica. They're all slow burns. They're making your way through an area. They have actiony moments, but and yet the movies just throw it out the window and turn into, and then it's like a video game. I'm thinking in this case, the video games were actually more slow and sedate and character driven and stuff. And I realized they're like, well, we can't make a movie about a person walking around a mansion. I'm like, well, you should. I'd watch it.
Yeah, you could.
Of course you could. Just like Alone in the Dark. That's what that movie's supposed to be about. People walking. That's like Resident Evil is what made the survival horror popular, but the godfather of them all is the original Alone in the Dark 2 games, which is all about exploring like a weird haunted mansion, and there's almost no combat, and it's puzzle solving and stuff. Like, say no more. It's a fucking Yui Bull movie, so you're not going to get that. But
I saw that in the movie theater. Oh no, opening weekend.
Amazing. I've seen some Yui Bolt films, but none in the theater, thank God.
That was before we knew who
I know.
Uwe Boll was.
That's fair. That's fair.
And who's in it?
Christian Slater and
yeah.
Tara Reid. Tara Reid. Oh my God, she's like an archaeologist or something.
Oh, of course she is.
Oh fuck.
That's a. I mean, I saw the House of the Dead movie in the theater too.
Wow,
makes you feel any better?
I feel bad for you because I saw maybe. I managed to last maybe 35 minutes of that movie before I turned it off because it was so painfully bad. I remember pretty much nothing from that 35 minutes either. I remember almost nothing. Like my brain had purged it.
it's such a stupid game too. Like it's
of
I
all
mean,
the
it's
games,
nothing to it.
mindless shooting.
Yeah.
There's no story.
He ruined the Blood Rain series too.
Oh yeah.
Made like 3 of those.
Yeah. But the original Alone in the Dark, I'm dying to play it again. That's another reason why I really want to get one of my many reasons I want a 3DO, because I want the 3DO version. Because every time I try to get it on the computer, it never works properly.
Really?
If anybody can hook me up with a decent version of Alone in the Dark that I can just play on the computer, I'd be happy just to play it again.
I don't know that I played that game before.
It's the original survival horror movie. It's really cool. It's a big sort of like thing, but written by a French game designer, and it's in like the late 80s, but a few versions came out in the early 90s too. And it's like the original, like, yeah, survival horror. You're like, it's like all about like a Cthulhu type thing. It's set in like the 20s, and you play one of two characters. You're either the niece of this guy who lives in the house, or you're this detective. The whole idea was there was this guy in like the southern Gothic mansion somewhere down south, and he was a famous artist. And he was reclusive, and the whole thing is like, then he started painting really, like his painting was like I can't remember, he had like a certain style, but then suddenly he started painting really different stuff, like really like horrific nightmare images and demons and all this stuff, and then he eventually killed himself in the attic or something like that. Anyway, it's about how you go to the house to investigate his death, and you're the detective, or you're, I think, his niece, something like that. And it's just one of those sort of like move around slowly, click games, and it's got like puzzles, and there's monsters and things that pop up, but it's very slow paced type thing, atmospheric thing, and also it's one of those games where like you can completely pretty much miss most of the plot if you don't pay attention, because you find out stuff by like finding journals and stuff. Anyway, it's really fun and engrossing, and it's kind of like, it's got problems, it's really old and archaic. It's one of the oldest like 3D games out there, but it's a really cool game that I played most of the way through. I never did finish it, although I know how it ends and stuff. And it's just about you making your way through the house and just uncovering stuff and having to avoid traps. And it can be cheap. It's one of those games that can have like instant kills. Like you make the wrong thing, it'll kill you and stuff. But you do every once in a while get a weapon or stuff. But it's you really try to conserve that. It's about trying to figure out ways to get past enemies or kill them without having to fight them and stuff. And different things attack you. So it's really the godfather of something like a Resident Evil, which of course improves on it in every way. But it's still a really cool game, and I love the setup. And I'm a Cthulhu person, so I like all the Cthulhu stuff that's going on in there. It's not actually Cthulhu mythos officially, but you know what I mean. It's a nod to that kind of stuff, right? Some dark power is obviously in the mansion, blah blah blah. Anyway, it's really fun. It's a super old, primitive game, but it's great, and it deserves its place in history. They made a couple sequels. The first sequel is the only one that's kind of like it. Then after that, they got more actiony, as these things do, and I don't know much. But the first two are really good for what they are. But they made 3DO versions of the first two, and they'd be like the first games I want to get into 3DO. Someday I'll get that 3DO.
It sounds like it would make a great movie.
Yeah, but again, because it would be a mystery, it would be slowly uncovering stuff in this house and a madman and dark forces, but instead we get what we got. I don't know. One of the reasons I was happy to watch Brick was because I've really been into sort of mystery stuff lately, because I was reading The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I've just about finished reading, and then I rewatched both versions recently too, and I was just like, yeah, I really like following like a case. I kind of think that's why I was, when you said Brick, I was like, yeah, I'm in the mood for that. I'm in the mood for unraveling a case. So, yeah, really cool. Plus, I needed to see Brick. I hadn't seen it in the last few years, but I remember I liked it just before. I really liked it. All that stuff works for me. I can understand how certain audiences are going to like it, or some people might say it goes a little far. It doesn't for me. For me, it all lands.
Well, I was going to ask you, were you reading those books for the new movie that came out, or?
Yeah, that's really why.
Really?
Well, yeah, the new movies. Yeah, maybe that's what I'll see. The new movie is coming out, and it's based on a book that's not written by the same guy. Died. But yeah, I'm thinking of, and I still haven't seen the other two Swedish movies. You said you saw them. Are they good?
Yeah, they're good. They're good. Yeah.
So I haven't seen, the first one is the only one I've seen or read. Now I'm almost finished the book, so now I can say that I've read it and seen both versions of it. but I have not read or seen, and I didn't make remakes of the others. Kicked a Hornet's Nest and Played with Fire, and now it's a different actress now because it's a few years later. I understand there's a new actress playing her in this new one. What is it? The Girl in the Spider's Web. So yeah, that might be the next movie I see in the theater. Just because I'm totally kind of in that mode now. But the other two are on Netflix, so I will watch them.
It's getting really good reviews, the new one.
That's good.
And you know who the director is?
No.
Fede Alvarez, the guy that did the Evil Dead remake and Don't Breathe.
I didn't like Don't Breathe, but sounds cool.
Don't Breathe is getting a sequel, and so is Evil Dead.
I'm not surprised that Don't Breathe is getting a sequel. I'll see an Evil Dead sequel. I mean, it's a totally different thing, this Evil Dead. They take all the comedy out, and I can live with it.
We need to do like an M. Night Shyamalan mashup and put those two together. Put like Don't Breathe and Evil Dead in the same movie.
Yeah.
I'd watch it.
Yeah, sure.
I
did not like Don't Breathe at all.
You would just have a turkey baster full of jizz in each hand, like fighting the demon.
I always like giving alternatives. So Don't Breathe, I like seeing the inverse version of Don't Breathe, which is very movie Wait Until Dark. A blind woman who's being terrorized by sighted criminals. Dark. It's old. It's from the 60s.
Oh, okay. And that story's been done so many times. That's Mike Flanagan did a movie about that.
I think this is like 60s.
Hush.
Hush. Is that the one on Netflix about the deaf woman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been thinking about watching that.
Oh, she's deaf? Okay.
Yeah, that
I
one
was thinking she was blind. Okay.
Yeah. In Hush, she's deaf. And I guess for some of the point of view things, as we see it, we get like no sound, so we can experience the way she does. Yeah, I might watch that. That's been on my Netflix for a long time, and I've thought about it.
Didn't Ali Sheedy or someone make a movie about that where she was blind and being chased by a killer?
Ali Sheedy, that's way off my radar, man. I know nothing about anything she's done.
Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't her.
It's not a name, but I know who it is, but I'm not familiar with her career at all.
Yeah, oh well.
Ability. I feel bad I didn't get to watch Brick again. I feel like there was more to say that I'm not saying. Even though it's not like I should remember pretty well. I watched it last night. I still feel like there's things that I should have been bringing up or mentioning that I haven't. Like, I don't want to drag the show on or anything like that. We can finish soon. We talk about other stuff as we always inevitably do. But I just feel like...
We pretty much hit on everything.
I suppose.
I mean, we could go over the so many shots of various birds and feet.
Yeah. That was the thing. Like, I guess when I found out, I didn't know this the first time I watched it, but yeah, like he wanted like the people's shoes to be like the characters' identifiers. Like, you know, was by their shoes, which is cool. I guess it doesn't really matter to me, but sure, okay. I thought it was interesting that Brandon wore such stupid shoes because he had to run so much. I'm like, you don't run that much. Wear sneakers, motherfucker. You know, there's a scene where the guy with the knife is chasing him. He's running, and I'm like, that must be so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The shoes do not look like they're good for running.
No.
And he actually, what's weird is he takes them off at the end to trip the guy. It doesn't seem like you needed to do that.
I know. I agree. It's like the guy's going to hear him walking over there.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, the first time you watch this, like, he's taking them off so he can sneak off and the guy won't hear him. But he lies in wait so he can trip the guy, which works out pretty well. That's one of those moments that doesn't have anything to do with the main plot. Not that I mind it, because the whole thing he finds out later is like it's not related to his investigation at all. Brad hired the guy out of revenge for beating him up in front of all those people. Which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that fix. Although I think, now you have to go back to school with all these people. I mean, some of them are in jail.
Well, most of them are dead. All the bad guys are dead.
Yeah. I never really thought of the Pin as a bad guy.
That's true.
Although, I mean, within the context of what we're seeing, right? I mean, he's a criminal, but he seemed like a guy that didn't want to, like, have people killed or get people killed. And it's clear that, like, he didn't know anything about Laura or not Laura, M being murdered. Like, he didn't know that his man did that. Tug. And in Dode, you feel bad, is sort of an innocent victim too. So yeah, in the end, you've got a couple of innocent victims, and then Dode gets killed by the police, and you know that Laura's going to get picked up by the cops for her role in it. And, yeah, the school stuff is kind of funny though. Like, he's deliberately not going to class. He's like, "What are you going to do? Pull me out of class and stuff." Because he has this whole weird relationship with the faculty because he's kind of their inside man because he ratted out his old partner or whatever.
Right.
Even though he'd made an attempt to, like, get out of that world completely, and he's like, "I'm not your boy." Seems to suggest that the school is well aware that they have a massive drug problem. Like, all the students are on drugs, and all of them are selling drugs, and they're all part of do anything.
Just to put this in context here, like, you know, cocaine's worth a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
A kilo of cocaine's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
That much heroin, I mean, I don't know what the street value of that shit would be, but we're talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would imagine.
He had 10 bricks of it, and he was, you know, selling it piecemeal, you know, breaking a brick up, and he's saying, "I'm going to sell the last brick." So yeah, you're thinking this guy's running this massive operation out of his mom's basement, which is pretty funny.
And we're talking about like white, you know, China white heroin here that is just, oh man, just a tiny little scoop of that shit would probably be like $20, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's, God, there's no telling.
Heroin's such a dangerous drug. I can't believe
it's
still so popular after all these years. Like, it actually gone down, and now there's a big resurgence of it, I guess, in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Places like Ohio, like, have like a really big like heroin problem going on right now. I'm like, holy shit, it's like the 80s.
Is it? I mean, usually, like, when you hear about heroin, it's that black tar shit.
Yeah. It's like West Coast.
Yeah, this is better quality stuff. I mean, assuming it's not cut with like Drano or whatever the hell they put in there.
I'm not a big expert on it, but I just know that heroin is a super dangerous drug. Like, it's like hardcore. Like, if you're using heroin, you might as well use every other drug, because heroin's like as bad as it gets. It's super addictive, it's super destructive, and it costs a shit ton.
I've never used heroin either.
I've never been near heroin. I told you, unless that weird drug party I wound up at many years ago by accident had heroin. I wouldn't have been surprised if there was heroin there, but I got the hell out of there fast. That was a spooky thing. Everybody was so well dressed and playing nice. There wasn't any alcohol. Oh man, it was messed up.
I would have mingled and stayed around for quite a while.
I was really freaked out.
They were probably gonna have an orgy, right?
Probably. Didn't occur to me at the time. Yeah, it was weird. It looked like Eyes Wide Shut before the orgy.
I saw an article the other day talking about old people and orgies. And it's this whole thing. They do like a catered, like, all-you-can-eat buffet beforehand.
Yeah, swingers. Big swingers party.
Yeah, and I was like, man, that seems like such the wrong thing to do before you go into, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a joke about that in, like, Family Guy. There's a part where, like, Peter's, like, at the buffet table, and, like, some, like, naked middle-aged guy walks up to him. He's just like, "Hey, do you like this?" I can't even remember what he's talking about, some food. He's like, "Do you like this? My wife makes that. If you like your sniz or something, you're going to love this," or something stupid like that. Some guy. This is all I could think about while I was chowing on Martin or something like that. It's a bunch of naked, not good looking, just a bunch of naked, like, middle-aged people standing around at a buffet table.
Oh, man, that is bizarre. Gosh.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't get into that.
Even with really attractive people, group sex really loses its appeal for me after you get to, like, a certain number. Like, it goes from relatively sexy to, or, really crazy to, that's just super gross and unhygienic.
Yeah, I've got some aversions to stuff like that.
Based on my own surfing of porn, it seems maybe the Czechs like it the most or hold the records. Because anytime there's been, like, I think about, like, a big group, like 100 people in a room humping, it's like from Czech Republic. It'd be like Czech swingers. And it's just like this mass of like you can't even make out people. It's just
but it's not like erotic at all. It's
gone way past erotic now because it's just this mass of writhing bodies, right? It's not sexy. We talked about a bit more porn than we usually do, but that's okay, people.
That is true.
Well, it's because of Don John. At least it was somewhat topical.
That's true.
Watch Don John and tell me what you think about
it.
But I didn't think it was very good. Like I said, I get the point it's making, but I think it's overstating it and kind of missing some of the point too. Especially when you're using Scarlett Johansson as the real life counterpart to porn. This is like, I'm addicted to porn. I'm addicted to that fantasy world. I have to go back to my shitty normal life with my stupid, boring, normal girlfriend, Scarlett Johansson. Like, okay. I mean, yeah, she has a hideous accent, but still, I could still deal with it. It's also probably the most erotic you'll see Scarlett Johansson in a movie because there's like a part where she actually gets pretty naughty, where she's like, I don't know, I think she's like rubbing him through his pants and she's talking all dirty, and I'm like, yeah, it was good. You want that. But she's weird too because there's like in the opening, like he talks about like one of the things he does, like he works out a lot, he likes to look good, but he also likes to like keep his apartment neat, so it shows him like vacuuming and stuff. Like there's a part where they're starting to live, or she's, I don't know, they're dating, they're more serious now, and she finds out that like he vacuums. She's super turned off by it. She's like, that's not sexy. He's like, well, not everything's sexy. I just like to keep the apartment neat. She's like, no, you have to pay a maid or somebody to do that. He's like, that's wasted money. But she thought it's a big turn off to him that he like cleans his own apartment.
Ooh, manual labor is such a turn off.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do show that because she's like hot, she is spoiled. She's just sort of used to like coasting through life. So again, the movie makes a lot of good points, but I still feel like some of the main ones miss. And as I said, I just feel sorry for people if like porn is the only way they can enjoy sex and their real sex lives are boring and mechanical. Anyway, that was Brick. I feel like there are things I missed out on saying because it is a really sort of layered movie with a lot of things to discuss and talk about. But like you said, we got into most of the good stuff. I like Rian Johnson, although he's kind of let me down lately. Same thing with, I guess, both guys. Like it seemed like they both kind of let me down lately. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and him. Particularly Looper, because it was them together again. I'm just like you. I feel like Looper is just a really forgettable movie that's, like you said, kind of a sci-fi movie for people who don't watch sci-fi, and I don't really have any use for it. It's, well, the guy holed up in a barn, and bad guys are coming. Okay, I've seen that in quite a few movies. I don't need to see it again with a time travel twist that doesn't really add to the plot. And Bruce Willis not really trying. But, so I like this very much. Maybe I'd like Coen. I'll have to look for it at some point. Because there's so much I appreciate about it. This dialogue and style, the camera work, the storytelling, the actors all are really good at delivering those lines and stuff and making it believable and not seem silly for the most part. But yeah, the last thing I'll say is when I went to see, I never got around to doing the video on it, but the other film I saw, the last film I saw at the Atlanta Film Festival was written and directed by the same guy that had done It Follows, Under the Silver Lake. Under the Silver Lake kind of has some of this vibe to it, in that now we've got Andrew Garfield trying to figure out a mystery, and it follows some of the same things. He often gets like beaten up or drugged or humiliated, and he'll wake up after, and he'll go to weird things. It's much weirder. It's more like taking, like I said, I think it's kind of a noir story, but it's kind of like colorful, like a Brian De Palma story. And then it's got some of that dark LA weirdness of a David Lynch thing, kind of.
That's what I was going to say. It seems David Lynchy.
Kind of like, we even did it. The one I like the best, actually.
Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive. So stylistically, it's great, but as far as like the movie, like is it actually effective? I don't know. Especially the way it ends. Like nothing is really resolved or anything. It just sort of ends, kind of. Mm-hmm. It's a fun kind of ride, though. You should check it out if you get a chance. I don't know when that'll become available. It didn't get a full theatrical release. I just happened to see it as part of the festival, and who knows when it'll become available on like Netflix or whatever. But I definitely want to watch it again. And it's a good role for Andrew Garfield. because he's going to age out of that soon. It's kind of the last time he can sort of play him, that sort of like detached hipster. He's much more of a hipster type character than, say, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who fits into his Harpo world. But he fits into this world because this is a very sort of fake, phony, glossy, weird LA world full of bizarre parties and, you know, weirdness. But it's enjoyable, but I don't know if it really holds together completely, especially once it's over. Once it's over, you're kind of like, that's it?
Oh.
You know, you're not really going to get any sort of resolution, really. And it's not, you could say it's open-ended, but it's so open-ended that it doesn't even feel like an ending. So that's my main problem. But yeah, you get this, and again, it focuses on a lot of stuff that guy, sorry, I keep forgetting his name, that it follows, because, you know, he's one of those, he's of that generation that's really obsessed with the older stuff. So he loves analog things. You know, he likes, so, you know, we don't want to see too much of cell phones. We'll see the old phones. We'll see phone books. We'll see older style cars, you know, all that stuff. And he works in some pretty good stuff, like, the character actually, not only does he have is there a scene of him playing like the original Mario on NES with one of his friends. He actually has a stack of Nintendo Powers, and I shit you not, the Nintendo Powers actually work themselves into the plot.
Wow. So, is it a period piece? Is it set back in the... No, okay.
Very much a now thing, but like I said, it just has all these weird anarchisms in it, right? But the idea, it fits with him, because, again, he's kind of a hipster character. You get to see him in a various series of different hipster-type T-shirts.
You know, 10 or 15 years ago, you wouldn't believe that at all, but nostalgia gaming has become such a big thing.
Yeah, exactly. And he just seems like that kind of character. You're like, yeah, he'd be into that. He'd have that stuff. Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody likes that stuff.
So the movie's just kind of like, again, sort of a mishmash. It's basically a mishmash of stuff that the director likes. That's what the movie is. He's like, I like this, so this is in, I like this. And it is pleasing. It is interesting to see, but I don't think it's very effective as a story or a movie. Really? It's just, and it has sort of the Noir thing. Like, he meets this girl, seems to have some sort of connection with her, and she very abruptly leaves. She's like living in his building, and she leaves in the middle of the night. So he's trying to find out what happened to this girl. And as he's trying to find out, of course, he uncovers all this weird stuff, you know? And I don't know. I don't think it's very satisfying, but there's still a lot to be enjoyed just in the watching it. So when you get it, whenever that becomes available to watch, you should definitely watch it. Like, you know what you think of it. But that's definitely super style over substance. Like, the story is almost incidental to just sort of what it wants to show you.
Sure.
I'll watch it again. But I think it's kind of that director getting mad with power. It's like, I can do whatever I want. And very much him just being like, yes, throw this in, throw that in. I like this, I like that. And I don't know. It's cool, but yeah, I can't really say it's effective as a whole. But
makes you wonder how he got that kind of creative control. It's because, I mean, I know It Follows is pretty big, like in the horror circles, but I mean, I don't think it.
I guess it's because this movie isn't. I mean, it must have had a fairly big budget. I mean, it's not full of like explosions or car chases or anything, but I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. It's a movie that moves around a lot. There's a lot of locations. It's a pretty busy movie. Like, much busier, say, than this movie, which is a tight story, you know, kept in a world. This movie meanders all over the place. One point, you're seeing, like, a crazy goth rock vampire band. Other times, it's, you know, it's again, it's supposed to be, like, sort of like the dark underbelly weirdness of LA and Hollywood and stuff, right? Like, exclusive parties and models and performance artists and all that stuff. It's all that kind of stuff. But yeah, a big part of the plot is like this this band called like Jesus and His Vampire Brides or something like that, and it's got this big following of fans and stuff. And, you know,
sounds good to me.
There's a lot of cool things. Like I said, I think the movie works as potpourri, as a bunch of cool things, but as a whole, as like an actual story that you're going to feel good about, so much. But you'll definitely find things to enjoy about it. So yeah, I was thinking a little about that when I watched Brick, because it has some of Brick things to a certain extent, but it's much more exaggerated and prettied up and stuff. But anyway, really like Brick, love Brick, and it just sort of hit at just the right time. He's a bit older, but he's more or less is somewhat believable at that age and stuff. You know, he's not too old yet and stuff. And, really helped him transition into adult roles, I feel like. But yeah, I'll have to see the movie he did before this. You think it's cool? Something's in What is it?
Which one? Oh, Rian Johnson.
No, Levitt. Something Skin.
Oh, Mysterious Skin. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think I knew that movie existed. Or if I did, I didn't know that it was that time. I thought it was from later. I didn't know it was from like 2003 or 2004 or whatever. So yeah, I'm very interested in that.
I believe it's Greg Akari did that one, and it's Michelle Trachtenberg is in there.
Yeah, I loved her back then.
Yeah, I was thinking that you were a fan of hers.
Yeah.
So
More like I just thought she was cute. Not really. I thought she was a good actor, like some other people.
well, I know you mentioned her in a few other movies.
Yeah, but she's more of a. I just find she's cute. It's not necessarily I'm a fan of her as an actress.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
If I'm being honest, which I think is fine. I mean, there's plenty of women and girls that like, various male actors, and it's just more because they think they're hot or whatever, not necessarily.
Sure.
Man, I'm thinking, what's at the theaters out right now? Your favorite leading man, Gerard Butler, is in like some stupid submarine movie. I'm like, what is it? Scottish guys, submarine captain.
Are you serious?
He's following it's called Hunter Killer. It's in the grand tradition of Hunt for Red October. It even has to have Hunt in the title. It's
I didn't even know that. I thought that was a horror movie.
No, it's some sort of like military thriller, and I'm pretty sure he's a submarine captain.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm not a big Gerard Butler fan.
I know that's not a movie I'm going to see in theaters, for fuck's sake. I wonder how but that's kind of like the big one at the box office now after, Halloween.
Said everyone in the world.
Yeah, but I probably, unless I find myself, maybe money will be too tight or something, but I would like to see the new Girl movie, The Girl in the Spider's Web. Check it out. Yeah, I'm kind of riding that wave right now.
Yeah, I mean, hell, I'd say go see it in the next week or two. It may not be there anymore. The way things are.
Very true.
The stuff like really come and go quickly at your theaters.
Yeah, they can. They certainly can. Well, I mean, at least the close one because it's small. The bigger ones, they have a lot of screens, so stuff can hang around. Sometimes I go out to the bigger one with Ryan, and there'll be stuff from like months ago. I was like, "Holy shit, that's still here!" You never know, I guess.
Yeah, it's like some stuff I want to see. If I don't watch like the first week.
No, that's happened to me a bunch of times.
Yeah,
I did a very thorough search trying to find Suspiria in my area, and I guess it's just not going to happen, which sucks.
It must be very limited.
As good or bad, I'm very interested in seeing it. Like I read a very scathing review. I only read one review of it, and they hated it. But I don't know. I don't know what that means. It was like an official review, not just like some like user on Letterboxd. It was like some publication. And I think they thought it was really bland and soulless. But that's just one thing. Who knows?
Was it any like comparisons to the original or?
Well, it just they just seem to think that like all like the oomph and impact that the original had has just like been sucked out of this movie. They seem to think that this movie's kind of like lifeless and by the numbers is what they seem to be saying. I don't know. It's really long, I hear. I hear it's almost 3 hours.
It's almost 3 hours, yeah. I would say, I mean, not try to take the original out of your mind because it's probably going to be nothing like it.
Yeah, well, it's hard to do, though.
I would imagine. Oh, sure.
All I know is I really wanted to see it, and it looks like I'm not going to get to, which sucks. But oh well.
I know. I want to get that. I believe it's Blue Underground put out a restoration of Suspiria.
Yeah, I've got a Blue Underground. That's my copy of the Bird with the Crystal Plumage. It's not Blu-ray, but it's DVD. I got a DVD.
I was going to say that Blu-ray went out of print very quickly.
Yeah.
Bird with the Crystal Plumage.
No, I got the DVD, which is still pretty good.
It's a good movie.
Oh, I love it. It might be my favorite Argento movie, except for Suspiria.
Yeah, I've just got a cheap
DVD.
I
think it's my favorite Giallo by him. I think it's definitely my favorite Giallo. After that, I like some of his non-Giallos. Like
before I really got into Giallos, I liked quite a few of Argento's, but as I've kind of expanded out, there's quite a few directors I like more. But I like a lot of his. I like Deep Red a lot.
Oh, love Deep Red. Love to own that too. Yeah, as it stands right now, the only ones of his I own are I have a DVD of that Blue Underground, and I have a fairly new, just happened to stumble upon it, Blu-ray of Tenebrae.
That's cool.
But obviously, there's several I'd really like to have, including Suspiria, Deep Red, maybe Opera.
Opera, yeah. Yeah, I have a Blu-ray of Deep Red. I don't know who put it out, but I did. That was one I did pick up.
Cool.
But,
I guess that about wraps things up for tonight. So we aren't entirely sure what next week is, but we think we might try to move in a lighter and softer direction, just because of all the darkness that was October and stuff like that. As we said, discussively, that's kind of our wheelhouse. We always find our way back to it anyway, and we do have some crime dramas in the future that we're going to look after, including maybe something like House of Names, or like I said, we want to do maybe some Asian crime drama and stuff like that too. So always lots of stuff on the horizon, but yeah, maybe just to get out of the darkness a bit, we might do something a bit lighter week or the week after, something like that, before they're due by. So we will make that official in the coming days, make an announcement about that. So that was Brick, Rian Johnson, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Thank you very much for being with us, and we will see you in a week's time as we get November going here on the discussion talk that I mentioned. So thanks a lot. That's it. I'm Cole, and we'll see you very soon. Have a good one. Peace.
all right, thanks, guys.